All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it. Not a moment to waste. Well, we're in it now. We are in the shit. Donald Trump has officially decided to enter the United States and put a giant target on the backs of the, say, 40,000 U.S. troops in the area. Not only that, but any American civilians in the area. You can really expect some Iranian proxies to show some retaliation in that. Lots going on to talk about with the nuclear strikes, with the strikes on the nuclear sites by Donald Trump. I'm going to bring right in good friend of the show, somebody that we're happy to have on for the first time in my new setup in the new area here on the West Coast, Mr. Hal Sparks. Let me see if I can get this right, Hal, on the first try. I don't think I'm going to, but I'm going to try my best.
You did it. You did it totally fine.
How are you, my man?
Brilliant. I'm fantastic, and welcome to the left coast, my friend. We don't have to rename you at all. You're still Boston Brian and always shall be. Hi, Mel. How are you? I see you in the chat there. Look at that. Look, you've got on-site staff working. This guy is like gone from like zero to pro streamer, right? Is she modding too? This
yeah,
is like with witches in the background.
Yeah, she does. She does it all. The only thing I need to improve upon, I think, is the internet quality. That's about the only gripe I have so far.
That's right.
The walls are so goddamn thick in this place that I think it kind of impedes the servers from getting to certain parts
5G.
Of the house.
Absolutely. That's one thing that QAnon's never figured out, is that one of the ways you can foil 5G from destroying your DNA is just stand in a phone booth, because it can't get through anything. Like you have to have you got to have a splitter and a sensor and a transmitter everywhere. Otherwise, it might as well be LTE. How sad is that?
It's good to see that you seem to be located in your bunker at the moment, because God knows we may be needing bunkers at any moment in time. So let me just get your thoughts right off the bat on Donald Trump's decision to launch these strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. What do you think right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, I said this on my show, but I was sort of half joking about it, but that he wasn't waiting for 2 weeks. He was waiting for further instructions, and that really by punting 2 weeks, he was just waiting for something to force him into this decision. And it was more than likely going to be General Kane, who was in charge of like mansplaining it to the huge man baby, so that he would act, because they all knew what details you could give him to get him to do this. The issue that they have is that MAGA is obviously split on this, but the story that's coming out in the New York Times today and in others is, strike on Iran cast doubt on whether U.S. was serious about talks in the first place. Let me tell you, Trump wasn't. This was always all about, he was going to do this in one form or another. There is no way. The way he was talking about it, you could tell he thought of it was a singular strike. After hitting Soleimani and the impact that it had, I think he had no worries about going even further, that was the testing of the waters. And he considered them a paper tiger, or that they weren't being deferential to him, or they were being deferential to him or whatever, let him get away with it to some degree. But once this ball started rolling, once Israel did these strikes on Iran, it was already decided. There's no way Trump is going to play second fiddle in this situation. Just not going to happen. So that's my theory on it. And that's what I said, and that's what ended up happening. When I heard he was having a meeting on radio on Saturday, right after they announced that he was meeting with his people in the Situation Room, I was like, there's only 3 windows. It happens tonight, it happens Monday morning, and all bets are off for the week. Because Saturday night would be when you got a day and a half of oil markets and everybody else being on pause till it hits on Monday, so he can hopefully think it settles down, or they establish a new, that whatever their lie is, they put the lie to this whole thing and can stabilize things. And then, or you do it on Monday and all hell be damned that you're just owning the week. And he's such a publicity hound. That was a possibility. The only other option was, after that, was Friday night, after the markets close on next Friday. And I didn't see him waiting that long. So my theory was Saturday night, and it turned out to be the truth.
Yeah, well, seemingly they disguised it, because from what I've heard, the reporting was he was due back at the White House at 6 p.m. That night after leaving Bedminster, of course, because you need to get in that last round of golf before you send in the B-52s.
Right.
But I mean, it looks weak to me all around, because not only did they wait for Israel to do a lot of the work, to take down a lot of the air defenses, but it doesn't seem to me like these strikes either way had much effect. Like, I don't anymore have any confidence in the United States military's capabilities, just because of their leaders at this moment in time and the people calling the shot and who they were put in charge by. I just don't. That's not to say that we don't have fantastic men and women in our armed forces and extremely capable, but the fish rots from the head. You know what I mean? If you got shitty commanders and people calling, bad tactical strikes and, different details of it not going right, even if this strike was effective, and we're seeing some satellite images coming out, we've heard from many people that most of the material and the equipment had been moved out of these sites. So what was the mission? What is the point?
Even if they move it out, right. Even if they move it out, the idea was that that's where they were enriching it. And if they have to move it out before they've got the ability to enrich it further, whatever they have that's available for enough bombs is one thing. What they were going to make to back it up and test or whatever, then you would put a pause on that. I've always said that, like, one of the ways, if you have a facility like this, you can say all you want that it's safe below the ground. But if you obliterate the above ground part of the facility and all the roads going in, you set the whole thing back years anyways, because there's no way you're going to be commuting to work to that place without being in full view of everyone else if you're in a helicopter or something like that. So there's a myriad of ways that they could have slowed this down without the bunker busters. And I think, Israel was sort of counting on that, whether we got into it or not. The reality is that Trump was being convinced, and you could tell live that he doesn't understand that there's a difference between Hegseth and the generals. The Joint Chiefs and the generals are going to tell him what he needs to hear. Okay, give me the plan for doing this and not doing this. They're going to do both. That's their job. But he doesn't understand that the minute he turns them and says, okay, what's the good reason to do this? All they're going to give him is the good reason to do this. And if he's only got Pete Hegseth in the room and Tulsi Gabbard is out, and the only other person defending not doing this is Steve Bannon, who smells bad, Trump is going to side with the tall general with the cropped hair that looks like he came from Central Casting that smells like Aqua Velva. He's going to do it because that's his limited brain capacity. He doesn't understand that if you go, okay, now give me the equally bad news on if we do this and it goes south. And he won't do that because he doesn't want to hear the losing part of it ever. He only wants to hear the upside. And that's the issue you're going to run into. So he was always going to do it.
A lot of times in situations like this, you'll hear about, the assessment of the 24 to 48 hours after whatever decision you're undertaking. You know what I mean? What are the ramifications? What are the possible, retaliatory strikes or things that may happen in the 24 to 48 hours after that? And we've seen a lot of talk on the danger that the soldiers, U.S. soldiers in places like Iraq are in from proxies of Iran. Just like I said, the targets that have been placed on the backs. But I'm at for what? Because I've also been seeing a lot of reporting of saying that what the Iranians are actually trying to do with this nuclear material does not take a lot of space. It's not like they're trying to get a manufacture a processing plant of nuclear bombs, right?
It doesn't take like the Apple facility at Cupertino that's 9 football fields wide. It can be done in a relatively small lab, especially if you're not talking about delivering it by a missile. So the primary thing we think about when we think about nuclear missiles is they've got to build this, they got to build a trigger mechanism, they have to build a bomb that can carry it, and it has to be an intercontinental ballistic missile to actually carry out the strike that we're talking about, the one that America fears before it's on our doorstep in our lap, right? That's what everybody talks about. But in terms of enriched uranium and dirty bombs and truck bombs and other variant ways of doing this through proxies and all this other stuff, Iran has a lot more ways to carry out nuclear strikes than just traditional ICBMs or just BMs, just bowel movements, ballistic missiles. So that's the concern that Israel has to have. They don't need an intercontinental ballistic missile because a continental ballistic missile will be enough to reach them, and they definitely have those. So Israel needed the United States to eliminate the fuel system and the assembly area where they would do this, possibly where they would test it. And the issue that they've had for years is, and I see everybody falling back on this, is that Netanyahu's been saying for 25 years that they're closer and they're this close and they're this close. Well, this is kind of like the NATO expansion conversation that we have about Russia and Ukraine, is that it was like, NATO's been expanding this whole time without ever mentioning Georgia, without ever mentioning Chechnya, without ever mentioning them assassinating people in Germany and England, without ever recognizing that there was another side pushing back in this situation. So while Israel has been saying, they're enriching and they're this close, there have been actions taken to drive them back. And one of them would be the JCPOA, the Obama agreement that slowed this thing down. Trump killed it. And in killing it, just a few years later, we were having this conversation that they're only months away from doing it. And they probably were, because Donald Trump killed this plan, which means that Trump wanted to do this the whole time. Again, another example of that this was the plan back then. And if COVID hadn't happened and he'd gotten a second term, this is what would have happened then.
But that Iran nuclear deal was relatively recent on the scale of what we're talking about in the 30 years that Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to tell us that Iran is 5 seconds away, 30 seconds away, 30 days away, 30 months away. Now the 90,
but that's not the only thing that's been done, is what I'm saying. That's a good example of them, but there are in a myriad of things, both including them bombing sites, right?
But there's also no evidence to suggest that Iran has any plans to undertake any of these attacks that we think that they would, if they would have these capabilities. Like, there's nothing to suggest that they're going to plan out any of these nuclear strikes on, Chicago, anywhere in the United States, or any
not in the U.S.,
Israel, or anything like that. But I'm just saying, there's no evidence to suggest that this was needed.
So the whole thing with Israel is, no matter when they got the bomb or whether they got a bomb that was equivalent in its destructive power, they've been fairly clear about the elimination of Israel forever. And that's been since the 40s. So it's, again, you can either blow that language off or you can take it seriously. And there's a good case for both. And, that it's a big line of bullshit, like Saddam Hussein's a great example. Saddam Hussein was in a position around the Iraq War where he couldn't admit he didn't have weapons of mass destruction openly, because it would let his enemies know, namely Iran, in his mind, that he didn't have those weapons, and therefore he might feel like they could attack him. So he kind of kept mum, and the Bush administration took advantage of that fact, that his big talk and the fact that he wouldn't say directly, I don't have these things and I'm not going to use these things, allowed them to create the myth that he was going to use them and that he did have them. And Iran was in a similar situation.
He was also forced into trying to accelerate his nuclear program because of the undertakings of what, countries like the United States.
I'm not arguing for
stuff. Right, but what I'm saying is, strikes like this is now going to give Erdogan and every Jack, Jill, and fucking schmo in the world that has a military under his belt. All this is going to do is say, okay, now you definitely need a nuclear weapon. Now, in order to even have any saying or any fight in this game,
the lesson of North Korea.
Right. That's exactly right, which is what I was saying on the last show. So this is going to have what I believe is going to be adverse effects or reactions to this, where it's just going to tell these people, okay, well, what it looks to me on the outside from everybody is Iran was, whether to their full potential or capabilities, talking with the United States about what was going on in their nuclear program. And then the United States decided to, come out and say, I'm going to give them 2 weeks, or it's going to be 2 weeks. And then less than 48 hours later, strike their nuclear sites. So it really doesn't matter if you are playing ball with the United States. they can still take it and will take advantage of you if you have no nuclear capabilities already set up. So what it's going to do is it's going to force some of these assholes to try to accelerate their nuclear program if there are any going underground, and it's going to make damn sure that they keep it as secret as friggin' possible until it's pretty much ready to go, because that will give them the ability to then negotiate like somebody like Kim Jong-un is doing, where, we know he's an asshole, we know he's crazy, but there's really not much we can fucking do while he's got those things, while he's got a button that works.
Until something happens to him. And that's the other thing. Right. And that's where I think the other aspect of this is, and you're absolutely right, that if you're a regime like Putin or North Korea or something like that, or even China in this situation, the lesson obviously is get your nukes under the table and don't talk about it, and have them so that you can protect that you can use what Russia uses as a mutual assured destruction, not just to save yourself, but to give yourself an umbrella under which to attack whoever the fuck you want, because they'll eventually, everybody will afraid to mess with you while you're screwing with other people because you've got nukes and they're afraid to go any further. Right. So, the other issue with the Iranians is that now I'm of the mind that everybody who's talking about this isn't about regime change anymore. There is no other path now, that they have boxed this situation in, that they've got to decapitate the leadership. Otherwise, they will rebuild it. Because, again, like you were saying, it doesn't take a giant football field like setup to do this. And so you've got to eliminate the people who would do it. And so you need a Shah or some relative of his, or a democratic, you need regime change. Because if any of the Ayatollah's followers, like the people he's named, if in case he gets taken out, which we've seen reports of recently, if any of those guys take over, of course they're going to threaten the world with this again and start building it as fast as possible, even if it's just a dirty bomb, right? So the issue is that it isn't just, well, we went in there, we took out their capability, we set them back 3 years or 5 years or whatever, and we'll start from scratch and we'll work peace with them. Because if we learned from Hamas, for example, that they viewed Trump's moving of the embassy and the recognition of the Golan Heights as the impetus for October 7th. They were like, we're going to play nice. The New York Times posted the minutes from the meetings that Sinwar had with all of his generals in Hamas, and all of them were like, we're going to play sweet with the Israelis until such time as we don't. And that comes from the Mao playbook, and the sort of the Chinese idea of like bide your time and hide your strength. This is what they do, and this is what the lesson of Iran will be. So if you just go, okay, we're sorry, we quit, and knowing who you're dealing with, and knowing that they're going to have revenge on their mind, and that they need to show strength to maintain power in that part of the world. It's the same problem you have with Putin, right? He can't go, okay, I'm a peacenik now, and try to walk it back, because his own people will turn on him. Everybody will see blood in the water, and they'll say it was a sign of weakness to start this war in the first place. It's all his fault, and they'll broom him out. So he's got to be scary forever. The same thing is true of the Ayatollahs now.
I just think it's incredibly ignorant and naive. I mean, to still think that the United States, even if we did enact some regime change, that we're going to get some positive outcome from that. I mean, from Iraq, we got ISIS, we got Lebanon, we got Syria. I mean, we got the degradation of several countries in and around the main area at play here. I mean, so there are so many different ways where this could get cocked up. Where,
I totally agree.
We're hearing a huge sense of nationalism here in Iran now, where the next person or the next people that come into power could be 10 times worse, 10 times more feverish, 10 times more nationalistic, 10 times more anti-Israel and anti-United States now. I mean, we could be playing with fucking fire, where we think the grass is greener, but on the other side is actually mud.
It could, it absolutely could be. What I'm saying is that whether it was Trump himself or the people around him, left over from the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, the PNAC, Project 2025, whoever the fuck that is, or whether it's Netanyahu, they are recognized. They are boxing him in to these decisions. And that's the only way to get him to act, either by, appealing to his dough-headed ego, or scaring him into, well, if you don't do this, you're going to look like a wuss, or you're going to, or the attacks will be worse. And whatever they're using to manipulate him, I'm saying there are very few there. I see, and I'm literally not talking about whether it's good or bad. I'm telling you what I think the people around him are saying in his ear and where this is going to lead, whether we care about it or not. And this is why voting matters. And I'm going to vote shame the shit out of people if they put down, if they didn't show up last time, because this was inevitable. Everybody who's saying we didn't vote for this on MAGA right now, you absolutely did. I don't want to hear it. You absolutely did, because the way he talked about the Palestinians, the way he talked about Iran, the way he discussed world power and his whole peace through strength thing. How do you show strength? Violence. You can't a parade ain't going to do it. And so the idea that he wasn't going to do this is just dumb. And so what's happening right now is I guarantee there are people around him going, look, the Ayatollah's, he'll talk a good game maybe, but he's not going to make a deal with you now because you broke the last one. They're mad about this. You're going to have to get rid of him. And you're either going to help Israel do it, or Israel's going to do it and you'll benefit from it, or we're going to do it, but it's got to be done. That's the conversation that is happening now. Even Bannon and all these guys who were against this in the first place, allegedly, and again, I don't believe that they're honest brokers in any of this stuff. All of them are saying, well, now that you've done it, you can't flick one domino. You got to go all in. And that's going to be the conversation. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to predict the future and what's going to happen from here. But I mean, I believe that Donald Trump was dog walked, led by the nose, straight into this by Benjamin Netanyahu, who again benefits immensely from this. It's another conflict in which his people are hugely supportive of. That's going to keep him in power. That's going to raise his favorability when when we saw his favorability drop and in the problems that the Israeli people had with him, in his undertakings in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in that situation. But I mean, I have absolutely no trust in what he says about Iran's capabilities, where they're going, what they're doing. Again, like you said, I think Donald Trump just happens to be. Benjamin Netanyahu had been trying to do this for a long time, and I think that Donald Trump just happened to be the dumbest, most incompetent, most gullible person in the correct position to allow this to happen. I think there was many ways that we could have avoided a strike on these nuclear sites, especially knowing, like we've been talking about, the ease in which, like, we're not talking about huge, like, they're not trying to manufacture 10,000 nuclear bombs a month in some huge plant needing incredible amounts of uranium and et cetera. Like the analysts and the people that I've heard talk about this say that, it would be very easy for them, or a lot easier than we're thinking, for them to move their capabilities around this ginormous country out of these sites that we just struck, where now these strikes don't have really any impact. Like, I also don't believe the timelines that the United States is coming out with, saying that, we've sent them back this far. How the fuck do you know? This needs to be a multi-step process. A strike like this needs to be a multi-step process in order to correctly assess the effectiveness of these strikes. You need boots on the ground. You need human intel. You need eyes on, which then puts the human intel, the human resources in danger. You cannot just take satellite imagery and say, okay, this was 100% effective, 100% job done. This is what we got. So this needs to be a multi-step process. And I don't have the confidence in Raisin fucking Kane or Pete Hegseth to have the intelligence or the know-how to go in there and actually assess what was actually done, what damage was done, what we actually got, what we didn't get, what they managed to get out of there, and where we actually stand on these strikes. Because other than that, it was just a show of force in my eyes, in which we just look incredibly weak. Because once again, we waited until Israel had already done a lot of the strikes. They had already taken out a lot of the air defenses. We basically waited till Iran was a wounded animal. I haven't heard much about their abilities to strike back as a country. I've heard a lot about their proxies and the dangers of the Iranian proxies in and around the area to strike back against the United States soldiers and embassies and so on. But not so much Iran's capabilities itself. I think they're pretty much a wounded animal right now. And I feel like the United States just kind of came in at the end of a bar fight that was pretty much over, kicked the guy in the face, and then took credit for the whole fucking fight. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. I also think there's an element of the sort of Russian angle in this that there was this illusion that for the longest time that Russia was the second biggest, if not because they were willing to use it, the strongest military in the world, because they were goons about it. And ultimately in a pissing contest about strength, it's the people with the fewest rules of engagement that will win in a lot of these situations. So Russia took advantage of a lot of that. And I think Iran, whether through their alignment with Russia or on their own, had a lot of the same mythology floating around them. And that may have been bullshit beyond even just the military, like the nuclear part of it. The military itself could have been largely a paper tiger, a lot like Russia in this situation. And Israel was, whether through the Mossad or other people, were sort of aware of that. But they needed to make it look like they didn't just push over anybody in the region so that they would have a ratchet up. Right. They had to make it look like, oh shit, you need the United States involved or this will become a real fight. So they dragged us into this, in that regard.
I think
now that said,
go ahead. Sorry.
I just one more thing. And that is, I'm sick and tired of people blaming Trump's childhood or Bibi Netanyahu for the decisions of Donald John Trump, the man who is in his 70s. It is up to you. And if he was dog walked by, Netanyahu or anybody else, it's still him making the decision, and it's still his voters who are responsible. Right.
Right. But that doesn't mean that, just because you coax somebody into a bank with a gun and make him rob and steal the money doesn't mean that the coach and the teacher and the guy doesn't get some blame in this. The guy that's been trying to plan this for the last 30 years. I totally understand what you're saying. The blame totally lies on Donald Trump, the people that in his inner circle that made this decision. And the shit flows downhill from there. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that, but there's no denying that, the involvement, I believe, in my opinion, again, I'm not speaking for anybody else. This is just my opinions, in Netanyahu's involvement because like I was going to say, you're 100% right on what you were just saying before that too. And I think there's two parts to that. One, we know that Iran was in the process of building back up their air defenses when Israel undertook this campaign last 10 days, whatever how many days ago it was now at this point, right? So that's one. And then two, we've also heard a lot of reporting that Israel is getting low on certain missile air defense missiles. As far as trying to their effectiveness of shooting down Iranian missiles, but this is before they even started the campaign. So they didn't even have the proper amount of ammunition stockpiled to undertake this. So I think the United States involvement has very much to do with those two things, where not only, and it may backfire as far as the missiles, the defense missiles, because Iran may end up, launching more like we saw overnight. I don't know the reporting on how many were killed, but I believe it was multiple, over 10, I believe it was in Israel at least. So, you know what I mean? It could backfire. And, I think that's why the United States stepped up when it did. Again, I could be wrong. There could be multiple layers on that. And I'm sure there is, because it's a very complex and nuanced situation. But I think those two things where, the air defenses of Iran were starting to come back, and Israel was really telling the United States that, look, we've struck them now. They're down now. Like their capabilities are down now. I can't guarantee that in the future. So if you want to strike, now is the time to do it. Not only that, but we're getting kind of close on our limit here on defense missiles. So if you could step up your help and your involvement and to take out, their ability to engage, or at least to come to the table and speak, that would be fantastic. And I think Donald Trump, like I said, just happened to be dumb enough, incompetent enough, and in the power to do so, to make that happen for Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, you can never rule out the fact that, never underestimate Donald Trump's ability to fuck up a free lunch. And of course, the fact that he's got a small gym will direct most of his decisions beyond even the factors in. So we could talk all about the material difference in the world, but all of it boils down to how Trump feels when he gets out of the shower.
And when you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms.
Is that ultimately his decision making is going to be based on that, not on the reality that he experiences.
The kidney has a very the heart,
right?
I like this one. Hold on.
We appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. We appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
I don't even know what they're laughing about in that, other than at him, right?
No, but you're. Oh, sorry, bud.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
wants to save our country.
I have a mouth that wants to save our country.
The sand was loaded up with blood.
Right. This is and that's, by the way, that story, that sand loaded up with blood and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is how he talks about the Middle East. And I got to say, I got to say, I don't think he makes any distinction in the Middle East. That's also the other thing that I don't know that people process enough, is that Trump does not see a distinction between Israel and Saudi Arabia and Iran. These are just money-making opportunities to him in some ways, either above the table or under the table. And he thinks that his legacy will be based on this kind of like elimination of the bad guys machismo, followed by the business deals his family will make on the graveyards of these villains. And so that's what he, is focused on. And again, when that's your focus, it doesn't take much for somebody to come up and, Ray Epps you into doing whatever they want, to link it to how the maggots feel about Jan 6, right? It doesn't take much. You're already pre-prepped. You're already talked into this shit. And
well, I guess go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
No,
but I guess it brings me to a good question for you, is like, how do you think he maneuvers this from here? And what do you think this does for his America first, peace president, anti-war, never get involved in the Middle East shit? Like, do you think that matters at all? I mean,
no,
because I think that we just
the same way.
We're not.
Nobody.
Go ahead.
Nobody in Waco gave a shit that David Koresh picked a fight with the FBI. There might have been arguments about how far to go before that happened. Once it happened, everybody picked up a gun and started shooting out the fucking windows and started like handing out grenades to children. Like, that's where MAGA is. For all this talk about, Dave Smith and others, feeling all upset about this, they'll all fall in line. Even, and Dave Smith's a great example of this. He called Trump a war criminal in 2021, and then he still voted for him again. So the idea that he's all miffed about this stuff is garbage. And if he views this as water under the bridge, and there's, we go a couple of months without an attack, or there's a distance between this and what actually happens as the blowback that's large enough to give him plausible deniability about it, he'll ignore it. That, like every other maggot. And that's what Trump is counting on. And that's what, look at the response now in Bannon world and all this other stuff. They're all talking about like, okay, now that it's done.
At least it's just a single strike. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's garbage. So, and then, the real mark is what qualifies as war, and that Vance is saying we're not at war with Iran, we're at war with Iran's nuclear program, which is just ridiculous, right? And we know it is. And yes, it's impeachable. And here's the thing. Maggots in the Congress are going to whiff this too. They're not going to impeach him over it, right? They're not going to jump, on board with this. Like, okay, the Dems were right this whole time. I regret this. They're going to fall back in line again. And then he's going to do something even more egregious, whether it's snuffing Kim Jong-un, or whether it's, further strikes, or whether it's like, it's time we just, screw the deal with the Houthis. This drove them to fire on our ships again. So we're just going to wipe them out. And we're going to partner with the Yemeni government and the Saudis to try to just broom them all out. And then we're billions of dollars in. You want to talk about a forever war that would actually occur? It would be the southern part of Yemen and the breakout forces in Africa that align themselves with the Shiite mullahs in Iran, who see themselves as effectively deputized warlords to attack the West. That will happen throughout there. And it'll be France, and it'll be Germany, and it'll be UN forces and that kind of stuff all through those areas, dealing with, dust up militias and all that stuff, because Trump started this stuff with no way of ending it. And for all this whole, like, how is he going to work it out? How is he going to think about this? What are his factors going to be? He's just going to react to it in whatever impulsive way he sees going forward. He is not going to get smarter going forward. He's not going to learn a lesson from this. The next decision he makes is not going to be based on more information or even, less information. He doesn't care. He's just going to do whatever in that moment the person in front of him. It's just like him walking up on stage, and whoever talked to him last, he's going to blather about it. Elon Musk saying fast racehorses make fast racehorses, and there's something to this whole eugenic shit. And then Trump walks up on stage and starts talking about how he comes from good genes, and because he had an uncle at MIT, he's got to be a genius, right? This is how these decisions, and you'll see the pundit class all over the goddamn news talking about, well, what does this mean? And this guy, and there was operational security on this, and even Hegseth couldn't screw it up. It's because Trump didn't know what he was going to do until he got in the room. And the only people that knew what Trump was going to do were the people who knew what switches to throw to get him to act this way. And it was Kane and those other guys.
Yeah, he says it. He said it at the press conference the other day outside. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. You don't know what I'm going to do.
That's right. And so what he means is his doughy head is accepting whatever the last piece of input is right before the deadline.
Right. I appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you so much for coming over to chat. If you guys could in the chat, make sure you like the stream, share it out. I really do appreciate it. Thank Hal for joining me. This is, if you're just joining us, my buddy Hal Sparks, friend of the show, and host of Hal Sparks Mornings MAGA Worldwide, correct? Mm-hmm. And then you got the afternoon show. Give everybody a schedule so everybody knows.
Yeah. So I'm on 6 days a week. Sunday's the only day off, which is why I'm with you here today, because I do my radio show every Saturday, the Hal Sparks radio program, MAGA Worldwide, which has been going on for a long time. The root of all the names, by the way, because I at one point my show, I was just being really simple with stuff, and it was just HSRP, and somebody accidentally miswrote it down and wrote HSRPM. Because they thought it was like rotations per minute, and they were like made a speed reference or whatever. And so I had to make up something for what the M means. So I came up with MAGA Worldwide as sort of a joke, and then that took off. So Hal Sparks MAGA Worldwide became the show in the afternoons, and then the mornings MAGA Worldwide became a thing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, because I wanted to talk deeper about these issues than just I could do in referencing the clips, to have conversations with people, because you got to be able to dive into these things more than you're just referencing what is being said about them in reaction videos and the like. And especially when it's stuff like this, because we are in a situation where the depth of thinking required in a circumstance like this, and the material, the genuine angles that are there, are beyond the capacity of the people in charge. Mm-hmm. I look, it doesn't matter how much information or how little information Donald Trump has, because he lacks the ability to process it intellectually, period.
Yeah,
it won't matter.
It's very similar to the people like doing the research on like COVID vaccines and medications. It's like you can get all the research that you want, but if you're not qualified to read that material, like you're fucking, you're shoveling shit against the tide, Chief.
That's right. Yes, you're going to draw whatever you're predisposed to draw from it because of how your brain wants to hear it, right? You got, and for all the Republicans pushing back on cognitive bias and all this stuff online and stuff, there have been no bigger victims of cognitive bias than MAGA, and they're not going to change anytime soon. So just for the record, just know that. And the only way we're going to change this, I got news for you kids, is voting for Democrats. All of them. Even the ones you don't like. Sorry, but the days of purity test is what got us here. And I don't care if it's Fetterman or it's a Manchin. No, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter, because
there's got to be somebody better than Fetterman. If there's not anybody better than Fetterman, we're in trouble.
Maybe there is, but you're not going to get one anytime soon, because if that's what has to stay in office there, that's the only thing you're going to get. And I got news for you. We got bigger fish to fry, because you might have him wiggling a bunch and annoying you, but it's because our fixation on our own side is what we think we can. It's like that reflex of like, what can I salvage? What can I fix? And we all
right.
feel the
that
need
doesn't mean we
security.
can't give that fish a slap every time we're heading to the sea to catch the bigger fish. You know what I mean? Just that fish that's hanging, and give it a little fucking smack to let it know where the fucking stands.
Sure, but you might actually help it get elected easier the next time around, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for some balance in that seat, right? That's what you're going to end up with. I can't see any
Democrats that want what Fetterman has been doing for the last, 6-7 months, whatever the fuck it is.
Again, side point, because again, the whole goal, we can't even start talking about pairing people like Fetterman out until we've got a 60-40 in both places. Right. The only goal right now is red districts purple, purple districts blue. End of conversation. And anything short of that.
Right. But the whole point of politicians are to listen to what the people need, their reactions to it, and to make sure that the rights of the people are defended and what the people want and want to see happen in their communities, which is why you were voted in there, happen. And if you're not doing what the said people want you to do, and if you're doing the opposite of what we believe is morally correct or within our principles or beliefs, it is our duty as citizens of this country to let these politicians know that is not going to stand. That is not what we voted for.
Agreed. But you and I are not Pennsylvania voters. Neither one of us is registered to vote in Pennsylvania. And if people are in that state, then great. But again, we're always dealing with the subset of the subset of the subset. So it's important to stay on track with red district purple, purple district blue. It's the only thing that can matter right now, because until we have a 60-40 margin, we won't even begin to start presenting the idea to crossover districts that the Democratic way of doing things, the full blue way of doing things, is the verifiable, functional way of doing it. We have the job of convincing people, and just slamming him. And again, valid, right? Again, I'm not arguing with people's criticisms of him. I'm just saying it's until we can get our own in line to vote for Democrats, period. The idea that we'll vote for, the bluest of the blue is an absurdity. It's a fiction that we will tell ourselves until we can get our message in a way that we're reaching across that bridge. We're pulling those independents that voted for Obama back into the fold, right? That has to be our only focus, or that's how we get people like Trump in charge of all of it, blowing off Congress. We can have even... Right.
I just don't think we can afford a singular focus. And I believe you're 100% right. I just don't think we're in the timeline or have the ability to have a singular focus. Like, we have to, in this moment, be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to be able to focus on Donald Trump and getting voters in line with Democratic policies to make sure that these people are voted out of power.
I would say that the analogy of walk and chew gum is inadequate to the circumstance, and I'm talking about shooting and skiing. There's some people who can do both, and they're in the Olympics.
Whatever.
But most
carrying a fucking blue whale on your back while you're fucking jerking off. I don't care what the fucking metaphor is.
But we should be able to. We should be able
to do more than one thing at a time. We should be able to call out certain politicians and what they're doing while still being able to get across the point that the main enemy, the main focus is getting Donald Trump and the GOP and the people there out of profit.
I hear the desire, but what I'm telling you is that what you're really criticizing when you're criticizing Fetterman or any of these people is you're criticizing our inability to convince a big group of voters that our path is better. It isn't about him. And it's
about him lying about what he was going to do when he was elected, because he only got elected by saying shit that he hasn't done, by shit that he hasn't fucking stood behind, and doing the absolute opposite. So if you're going to tell me you're going to do one thing to get voted into office and then do the complete opposite, then the people should have the ability to say, hey, what the fuck are you doing? That's not why we put you in office. Because when you go into battle, that is not the time to just let your commanders do your thing. That you don't just send them into battle and say, okay, do your thing. That is when you want the most qualified, the most fit, the most able commanders in there being checked upon to make sure that everything they're doing is in step with the party, is in line with our mission. Like, that is the time where you make sure you have the best. And if we don't have the best, we need to make sure that, and if we don't have the ability to change them out because of when elections are, then we need to sway them as much as fucking possible, or shame them if need be into fucking, going back to our democratic roots. That way they're not, because they have the ability to play games. Like, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, look, John Fetterman says he's a Democrat. He's blue. Look at what he supports. He supports this bombing. He supports this bullshit. He supports Donald Trump. So maybe that's what Democratic policies are. That's not helping anybody. You know what I mean?
I agree. If you're a Pennsylvania voter and you're voting for Senate, in the next term, and he's up, or you have a primary candidate that can get elected during that period of time, then have a primary and do it.
Right.
But in the interim, Fetterman has voted multiple times with the Democrats, nearly every time.
He's missed more votes than anybody in Congress. He's missed fucking 30 or 40% of his ill. For what?
Here's a good example. Then the Mansion Cinema kind of idea, that eventually we got Mark Kelly in there because Cinema the disdain for voters. She moved to independent because she was trying to reach across this McCain zone and failed. And what ended up happening is we got Mark Kelly in there, and that's a good thing. But Mark Kelly,
because at least they voted, though, Hal. Like, at least they voted, not showing up to any votes, not doing your job at all, being the guy that's missed the most votes in the Senate out of any fucking senator, not showing up to 30-40% of the fucking votes. That's not helping anybody in either way. That's not advancing anybody's policies. That's not putting your name on anything. That's just fucking getting paid to do absolutely nothing and then come out and support Donald Trump in every single way.
All right. As an example, yes, when it comes around, more than likely, if that's the way the voters in Pennsylvania feel, they will absolutely do it. In the meantime, I will focus on carrying the whale, and you can focus on jerking off. How about that? We'll split the. We'll
do what we're good at then. Fuck it.
That's right. Yeah, everybody has mastered a skill, and let's go there. But but what I am saying is that until that point, and again, it's not going to dissuade. Like, he's obviously not reacting to that push from voters on our side at all. Whether it's because he's mentally ill and genuinely, and I don't mean this as a euphemism, I mean genuinely so. And all the stuff that went with, I mean, he's been through a stroke, he's had depression, and all that kind of stuff. It still applies to everybody else. And I think it really falls, Fetterman aside, the whole David Hogg idea that they were going to spend $20 million primarying a bunch of Congress people, for example, when there's a hair's breadth difference. And effectively all you would end up doing is taking blue districts and making them slightly bluer and move the needle zero, while moving the zero just this much would make the Republicans lose the House, and even a conservative Dem will vote with Hakeem Jeffries' plan the entire time. There's not a split in the Dems in the House, for example, the way there's a split amongst MAGA. And so you have to be laser focused, I think, on making that happen. Because if there's ever going to be a situation where Donald Trump is impeached, it's not going to come from Thomas Massie. It's not. It's going to come from a Dem majority that happens in the midterms next time. And until then, we're living with the consequences of last year's vote, which had a lot of this, like backbiting amongst Democrats that didn't even chart with the reality. As say what you will about Fetterman, but the lockstep vote of the Republican Party on the majority of these issues is what's driving Trump to think he's got a mandate and able to do shit like this. And we have bombed a country we are not at war with, that Congress has done because of the ramifications, the consequences of that behavior. So, and again, we have a vice president who literally said, we're not at war with Iran, we're at war with their nuclear program. It's madness. It's crazy. And it's not.
It's such craziness that. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, everybody else who was like, even if they're for it, they're like, yeah, it was a surgical strike, but you could argue we're at war with them now. We'll see what they're going to do, but we started it. Like, that's an honest way of addressing this. Even if you're for this, this strike, you're at least coming away with going, yeah, we declared war on them. Essentially, they were attacking our ally attacked back. We took an opportunity because we're at war with them. That's an honest view of it. And then we got to wait and see if they're going to respond and whether this ratchets up. But it's a war, no bullshit. But right now, what's happening is Trump world is full of all these people going, well, it was perfect, it was glorious, and Iran won't be able to respond, and even if they do, it'll be years later. And if it's terrorism and that kind of stuff, it's so what? It needed to be done, right? That's the story they're telling each other, and that's the story they're going to tell each other the next time he does something like this, and the time after that. And so our goal is primary. It is Republicans of any stripe cannot be trusted to run anything anymore. And anything shy of that goal is a waste of breath, in my estimation, because it's, again, even as the idea that like Fetterman by himself, it's a good example. Fetterman by himself, if he was for striking Iran and he came to the floor and said it, but we had Harris in there, so fucking what? Right? He would have probably ultimately, even if he offered an amendment and was Rand Pauling his way through this and said, we should do it, all the other Dems who would be in charge and the president, which would be a Democrat, would go, so? You know what I mean? There is a material difference. And that's the difference to me is the difference between, are we a social movement or are we a political movement? And a political movement actually has implications on people's material lives, whether they eat, whether they're killed, whether they survive, whether they have health care, whether they have housing. That's all I give a fuck about. And I will take somebody who votes with me 85% of the time versus somebody who votes against us 99% of the time.
Saying that you'll take somebody that votes with you 85% of the time is basically saying there's nobody else out there that would vote with me more of the time or that is any better
Not
than
right
that
now.
85%.
There's nobody in that seat. And there's nobody you can guarantee that if you run them, they're going to reverse. What you can do is go, if we run a Dem in this district that's had a Dem before, we can clear a red. That's what I'm talking about. All of our efforts, all of it, shouldn't be about brooming a Democrat, which again would be muted and impotent if we had control.
It's not brooming
of the House
a Democrat. It's getting a better Democrat. It's not brooming any Democrat. It's getting better representatives.
It is moving around deck chairs.
I didn't bring up Fetterman's name once in this until we started talking.
No, I know that. And this is something I feel very strongly about because this is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic when we talk about this kind of stuff. What we need to do is, yes, it is. Anywhere there's a Republican where there used to be a Democrat, that's our focus. And there's dozens of them, enough to eat up all the money that you could possibly get. Right.
And we should be able to do that at the same time as well, and even make that the main focus. But to say that we shouldn't have primaries for these other assholes or try to find better representation in other areas as well
is, I think,
a folly.
If you can get them elected statewide, that's one thing. But the issue is, if you could, you woulda. And at this point,
well, no, that's again what I'm saying. Going back to the Fetterman example, is he lied to the people about what he was going to do. That's the whole point. You know what I mean?
Right. And because he wants to stay in office. The idea is that how is the Pennsylvania polling going? And it isn't as cut and dry blue as it used to be because of the manipulation, I think, by the right. So if you're, this is how Kristen Sinema became an independent. Now, she went too far in this, and that's what cost her the seat. We got Mark Kelly in there. That's something where it becomes natural. And maybe there's a point where Fetterman goes, I'm an independent, so I'm not going to be a Democrat anymore. And maybe that's the way you go with driving him. Maybe the model for this is Kristen Sinema, not Joe Manchin. But the point I'm trying to make is that if we have a penny that we're spending anywhere in the Democratic Party, it's to get red seats that used to be blue back to blue, period. And we don't have money to throw around. And if we had, like I said, if
we raised $1 billion last election, though, I mean, we should have money to throw around.
I agree, but fundraising is down right now, and that's what they've been talking about. And so, again, I agree. I think once you get people passionate in it, they will do it again. But what I'm saying is that the primary goal has to be get rid of you're literally, this is a zero-sum game in terms of the House and the Senate, because they're the only people who will impeach and remove this guy right now. And he's in for all practical purposes, whether he keels over, kicks off, or splits between now and the next election, or he decides he's going to stay. The only thing that is going to stop him is a majority of Dems in the House or the Senate.
Right. And I know we don't have it now, but for every time Hakeem Jeffries or fucking Chuck Schumer gets in front of a camera or microphone, they should be calling for this man's impeachment and letting everybody know the illegalities, the unconstitutionality, it's against UN Charter, against the international rules of law, against the rules of war. I mean, there's multiple ways where this is an impeachable offense, and I understand we don't have it now. But the fact that shouldn't stop Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer from doing more than sending some strongly worded letters. Or having a press conference now again. They should be out there as loud as fucking possible every single day.
Right. Well, I think we'll see what Jeffries has said in terms of this. I think there was a quote that came out today. I don't have it in front of me, but and I agree to some degree. But I got to tell you, the voters spoke, and as much as you and I can hear from Hakeem Jeffries and everybody and from Chuck Schumer to make us feel better about voting for Democrats next time, as if they wouldn't vote the way we know they're going to vote. No matter what they say in front of the cameras, whether it's strongly worded or not, we know how they're going to vote. They're going to vote for healthcare every time. They're going to vote for infrastructure every time. They're going to vote against, like military expansion every time. They have, and they have no reason to change it unless the voter says so. And in the case of Jeffries and Schumer, you can argue that right now, yes, if they come out and say that, you and I will hear it. Like, thank God, fighters. But the independents that are on the fence about this, who are not drinking from the fire hose of news that you and I are talking about, might go, see, they sound like pussies again. That's where they're going to go. And does that mean they're going to vote more our way and go, we want to ratchet this down? Dave Smith is right. He regrets his Trump vote, and I'm going to flop back over the other side. Or does it mean they go further and go, well, somebody's got to make the tough decisions, and I'm glad it's him. Anyways, what's for dinner? And that's the electorate that decides the split in the vote each time. And it's the group you have to convince. And so that's your responsibility. And if you're, that's, I think, part of the factor that they are working on right now. And we want them to speak the shibboleth. We want them to speak the password. We want them to say it so our ears feel happy. And in reality, we know how they're going to vote. We do. Even, you and I talked about this once with bringing Fetterman back up.
But they're
again.
politicians. Their job is to persuade persuade voters. It's not to say, okay, we know what he stands for. We know how he's going to vote. The fucking point of being a politician and a leader is to get in front of a camera and a microphone and to be able to persuade people, to get people off their seats, to let people know what the fuck is going on and why they should be up and active and getting ready to vote. And I don't see that as much as I know they're going to vote the right way. I don't see that in either Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer. I mean, they're not living in the moment that we have. They're fighting in a different political timeline. I still believe, like, they're not doing. I think they're.
Go ahead. But I would say that comes from ignoring the middle conversation. That comes from, again, wanting the jargon, wanting the language to sound right for your ears, because we're in this. You and I are in this. Right. We know what we use fighting language all the time in what we do, and it doesn't appeal to a huge chunk of the electorate, and you have to appeal to them in a different way, and it takes more of a calculation. And if you want the language to match what the dyed-in-the-wool, ready-to-fight crowd are like, then that's what you're going to get stuck with. And that arguably is where Trump finds himself. So on the other side of this, a great example of the purity test and the languaging and the fight language is that maggots and rhinos are there's this talk of this civil war in maggot world right now. Now, I am of the opinion that they will fold, right in with him. But statistically, there's a percentage or two that whether we can win them over to our side or whether they'll just step aside and not vote is almost immaterial for us. It's whether they vote for us or don't vote at all, so he can't count on those votes, doesn't matter in the ultimate count. It benefits us long term. And that is the group that is persuadable and malleable and should be the primary point of attack for Democrats in this regard. And part of that is the language that they don't appeal to the fight language, but you will hear, if you hear the well-crafted political messages that are going to come out of the Democratic offices, as they have around the bill and, the BBB, the budget busting bill and stuff like that, that's who they're appealing to, not us. Because the idea is they're thinking that we sensibly will fold in and vote because we know Democrats are going to vote the way we want, to expand Medicaid, to make sure that Social Security is secure, to make sure that people have housing, and that we're not going to. And the difference right now is not whether we can, whether we'll have open borders or whether we'll round people up in semis and drive them to Guatemala and kick them out in the middle of nowhere in a country where they don't speak the language. The difference is sensible policies that care for the most people, or rounding people up in a fucking semi and dropping them off in El Salvador in a language that, in a country where language they don't speak. That's how stark the contrast is. It's enormous. It's guttural. It is feral on one side and reasonable on the other. And problem is, reasonable just doesn't sound sexy to a bunch of people, especially because if you're used to, or you need fight language in some ways. But that's not who we have to appeal to. Again, there is no fucking way you and I are going to vote for Jill Stein next round, or be suckered into the idea that JD Vance is the lighter, fluffier Trump, right? And that maybe he's the guy you can have a Diet Coke with or something, unless it makes you gay or whatever he was saying about that, right? We're not going to be that way. You and I are not. Well, I don't have to worry about us. There are two groups of voters that Democrats are worried about right now: the stand down, uncommitted crowd, that would lean towards that. If I have to vote for Fetterman, I'm not voting at all. And that's the stand down group. That's the maggot on our side that's going to not show up. And the Republicans are counting on that. The other half are people who will vote across the aisle because they go, well, one sounds tougher than the other. Even if it's bigoted, it sounds more strong or whatever. That's the crowd they have to worry about. The question is, what constitutes that strength? What makes them think that? And it's not as cut and dry as brown people awful, white people good in that mix of groups that went the other way in the last election. The Hispanics and the black people that voted because they don't want to, a good portion of them don't think a woman should be in charge of anything because of cultural reasons or whatever. Is that where we put ourselves in a situation where Democrats go, we can't run a woman next time because there's a big chunk of people that are in our group that aren't going to vote for a woman. We got to deal with that. And that isn't, and should they be more evolved? Of course. Would Harris have been less emotionally driven by this bullshit, less concerned about how she looks in the world and about the balances? Of course you would. But there's a bunch of voters that don't think so. So what's our job? Remind them and convince them that it is in whatever timetable it takes so that eventually we get a woman president, because that's my goal. I think we should have one. I think we should have had one 2-3 cycles ago, right? If not 4, right? The Democrats were the first one to make a female vice president, right? We should have had this a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure as far as you're concerned. But there's a big chunk of the electorate. And what's our job? To make sure that another man doesn't get elected, or to eventually convince people that women can do the job? And I think that it's the latter, not the former.
I think there's a conversation to be had about the youth vote too, which we saw was becoming more increasingly going to the right. I mean, we saw a good a good clip, not I think this week or the week before, from Jordan Klepper going around to different colleges and schools and talking about, talking to the younger generation about politics, and, to hear some of the answers they were given with, and they're all running around with Make America Great hats on. And, I mean, I think there's a conversation to be had about going in, and this goes to your, kind of the fight language and how you speak. And I kind of fear it may be the opposite, that the newer people that are tuning into politics may be very turned off by this very political, this very dry, this very, 7 people put this statement together and went over it with the fine tooth comb before it actually, got to Hakeem Jeffries' face, or before he memorized it or whatever like that. Like, I feel like the straight talk, like you give, like I give, like, AOC gives a lot of the time, just kind of this normal everyday person, blunt, this is what's going on, this is what needs to happen, this is what side of the fence that we're on. I think that is really appealing to a lot of the newer people listening to the news or tuning into politics. And I fear the really politicized, dry, like I said, mundane is more focused towards the journalists and the reporters that have been in this for a long time. And I think that's starting to wane a little bit. Right. I think people are trying to get, as bad as it is, they're trying to get entertainment as well as politics nowadays, because of how Trump has made this WWE fucking cosplay bullshit with politics. So I just, I kind of fear that we're not only losing some of the younger generation with this, really dryness, and just because Trump's over the top, even though he's a rapist and a criminal, like somehow he just falls into the bed of roses after stepping in shit. You know what I mean? It's just there's different conversations.
Here's what I'll say is that there is no youth vote. There never has been a youth vote, and there never will be a youth vote. It changes all the time, because if we learned anything from Family Ties, it's that hippies give birth to Alex Keaton, and Alex Keaton has a weed smoking kid. And
I don't know what that means, but how is there not a youth vote? There's definitely a demographic of people under a certain age that vote or don't vote, and it seemingly was a lot more towards Republicans on the youth vote this election, which we should try to change in the future, I believe. I'm not saying it should be a main focus. I just said it should be a side conversation that we have on how to try to get
here's what I mean.
Democratic politics.
Here's what I mean, and this is I try to be like as specific as I can. There are material differences amongst the Republicans or Democrats in their 60s, people in their 60s who have traditionally, and there's some water in this as well, but then overall, you've got a house, you've got a mortgage, you're probably close to done with it, even if you've been in this mortgage for any length of time, or you're ballpark in that way. And this is a generalized demographic that occurs by age. There's a 30 to 40 somethings more than likely have kids. They're in school. They deal with issues specific to that point. But the youth vote is different every time because it's trended by, fluctuations in culture and education and all kinds of stuff. And there is no hard spot on it because they have not put their flag in the ground that I'm going to live in an apartment and not have a kid. I'm going to have a cat, or I'm going to be a traditional family person. And they don't know yet. It's not even something like they haven't made the decision. They don't have the capacity to make the decision yet. So you have this window till people are about 24 where it's really up to whatever society's trends are at any given time where you're seeing this. And this is what Turning Points USA and Candace Owens and Daily Wire and all these stuff have sought to control. They tried to put a bit in the youth vote mouth, and they were successful for a while. And what'll happen is they'll get excited about it, get overreach, and then they will cause a rebellious reaction in the next group of youth voters who will have a more, Gen Y view of gender and all that kind of stuff because fuck these, conservative assholes who are telling me how to be a trad wife, right? And you had this like in the 90s where the grunge movement gave way to like the bro metal Limp Bizkit shit, which was a total flux in sexual behavior and stuff, where the rules came out and it was followed by the pickup artist community. And there's this rolling thing. Those people voted for George W. Bush. And then the people after them voted for Obama. The fluctuating vote that we talk about all the time, that really is the marginal couple of percent that everybody thinks of as independents, is the undecided youth voter, because there is no way of managing them. And the only way that you can really build anything is on older voters. People who
to make your politics appealing. Like I said, it's not a main focus. But it's something that if we have the resources,
you can't tell me 6 years from now in the next Senate campaign what the youth vote is going to be like. That's my point.
Well, I think you can tell if a kid's going to say, hey, I think saving this child's life is better than killing this child, or hey, not going to war is better than going to war, or hey,
apparently
let's make this lady have a decision. Well, it is, though. It is, right? You can at least do something to try to persuade and make it appealing, absolutely, and to actually engage younger voters, regardless of where the fuck they end up. I think it'd be prudent upon Democrats to at least spend and focus some time on what is increasingly being a lost fucking part of the voter base, no matter how small it is. But they turn into adults. They turn into people that work in corporations. They turn into people that have positions of power. So if we can persuade them early and say, hey, look, our side of the politics is for helping you out, and for giving you this, and for helping you through this college, and for giving you this to go towards your housing, or to help in your health care. We want you to be able to do this shit. Like, if we can, get that message across to the younger people, I think we have a better opportunity of having those people then in positions of power or in the workforce make a difference in the society that you said needed changing.
I agree, but I don't think that Harris was short on that discussion. I don't think Democrats over the last decade and a half.
I think Democrats are very much in general just really out of touch. I think I don't think they're known as the the cool people, or the people that, and not necessarily meaning that they have to. I'm just saying a lot of that ridiculous love that we see from the younger crowd for MAGA or whatever is literally just because they think they're the cool kids, and it's, it's going against the norm to like
point.
Them, you know what
Good
I mean?
point. Why do they think they're cool?
Well, because their friends are doing the same thing. And because it's
what is that thing?
Because you want to go against the system. You know what I mean? If that's the whole point, they want your rebellious nature as a kid, or going against the system, the same way that Trump was voted in office the first time, because this country was so sick of the system.
What would be the system? It's a great point. You're on the right track with this. What is the system they're rebelling against in terms of that would turn you into a follower of Charlie Kirk?
The system The system of corporations and CEOs taking in all the money. The systems of workers in this country being paid shit and working exorbitant hours. Not seeing their mums and their parents not be able to put fucking food on the table. Seeing their parents work exorbitantly long hours to only have to come home and work another job. Like, that's what kids see. That's what I saw. And it made me fucking hate the system. It made me, when my dad got hurt at work and he wasn't
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But I'm saying, like, your feeling about it is right on the money. But I'm talking about why they vote the flippant right-wing vote we're talking about. Because, again, Democrats talk about all this stuff. Democrats talk about being like Biden was the first president to stand on a strike line, right? He was like, they did all that right stuff. So why? What was it that made him change? Was it the material thing about insurance and whether people should be able to get it? Or was the fact that Charlie Kirk and all those guys get to be bigoted dicks and yell at people and say whatever the fuck they want without having to, like, apologize for the language they use, that they can, use the R word and borderline the N word all the time. I think that's what keeps them there. What gets them there is just the rebellious, people don't want me to do this. This is what my parents, or this is what the news says I shouldn't like. You hear Trump on the news all the time. He's bad, bad, bad. So now they make the decision to say, you know what, fuck my parents, or, fuck this, or whatever it is. I'm going to go listen to Charlie Kirk, or I'm going to go do this. And then when they get there, they feel like, oh, I can say or do whatever the fuck I want in this group. So regardless of, their beliefs later on, they stick to that. But I think it was, like I said, why Donald Trump was elected in the first place, because this country was just sick of the norm, sick of the regular. And I think that Hillary was seen as another institutionalist, another part of the government's establishment that was going to continue what the people were pissed off was happening, which was that people, billionaires and millionaires were becoming richer and richer. The corporations are taking in more money. Yeah, but then explain why he got elected the second time then, because he clearly did that during the first term, and he's doing it even more now. You're not seeing a split. You're not seeing a split in the Turning Points USA crowd based on that. You're not seeing Turning Points USA, like, college kids turning from Trump because he's got a stable coin crypto that he's ripping off the country with. I'm telling you, like,
that goes
what's the system? Right? Is the system more how the economic system works, or is the system more how they socially have to behave amongst their friends and other stuff at that age? And I would say that the current switch we saw, switch in the youth vote that we saw, has a lot to do with them feeling like you can't even make a joke anymore and all that kind of stuff. All the shit they bitch about, that, like Elon Musk saying comedy is back because you can be bigoted on Twitter, right? That's what appealed to them, and you can track it, right? And again, the system, the establishment we're talking about, isn't obviously the military-industrial complex or the economic caste system that exists in the United States, or whether or not people have insurance or not, because the Democrats created ACA, wanted to expand it, offered the first single-payer system within it, created an infrastructure bill, had the rescue package, we're trying to forgive student loans, all of it, and we're fairly loud about it. But why did that youth vote that we're talking about go to that other direction? Because there was a group of voters, and a large swath of them at that age, that cared more about being able to use the word retard than they cared about being able to talk about insurance and whether they should be able to stay on their parents' plan till they're 27. It was a material difference.
They have minimal choices. Like they're either listening to Ben Shapiro, fucking Charlie Kirk. There wasn't many, like, we all know how the right wing gets more views, substantially more views and playtime on social media, as far as liberal commentators, as far as progressive commentators. I mean, so it's like, that's what I mean, though. The Republicans were out there. Charlie Kirk was fucking out there. Stephen Crowder was out there.
Okay,
right?
But they were out there. I agree, but they weren't out there
into their brains, right?
You and I are both plenty entertaining, I think, in what we do, and I think we're very smart to do it that way. And in all honesty, that's why I do my show. It's why I create a banner where I'm in a bunker, a background like that, or why I have stupid shit on my show, like like the songs and stuff that I play, like couch humping and all this other stuff. The reason I do it is because I'm aware of that it has to be entertaining. But what I'm saying is that the establishment that group of voters went against was not the system that you're talking about whether people have insurance or whether they can put a meal on the table and any of that kind of stuff. I don't even know that they can process what that's like until it happens to you for the vast majority of them. And again, this is a huge chunk of voters who are upper middle class. They're not skipping dessert, right? They're not, these are not the kind of, these are kids paying a shit ton. They're paying $80 for a video game on PlayStation. These are not the same as like the blue collar kids we're talking about, like you and me, where you're eating dry potato flakes out of a fucking box because the water's been shut off. Like, I know what that's like. And my grounded
dry
feeling
Cinnamon
about
Toast Crunch because the milk went bad.
Yes, exactly. Right. Exactly. So you and I know that's what we mean when we're talking about this. That's not the voter we're talking about. And nor should it be, by the way. Increasingly, the goal should be that everybody has enough to get by and you move towards that direction. And as people do get that stuff, their decision-making is going to be based on other stuff. And again, it's going to be different every cycle. The next time it comes around, the Republicans are afraid that whether it's Iran or whether it's Trump doing something else or like the crypto fever will pass or something, that the next round of youth voters, whether we talk them out of it or not, or whether, the other ones move on or not, or whether it's just a reaction to the generation before them that's that's 3 years ahead of them in school and are a bunch of douchebags, is out of everyone's control in this regard. And the establishment that they'll be fighting against because of their natural rebellious, attitude will be the maggot conservatism, wearing a stupid hat and falling in line. Like they'll see it like line dancing in the in the early 80s, late 70s. Right. So the goal for us has to be that you and I have to find our way to language this stuff so it makes it entertaining and people can digest it and that kind of stuff. And I think we do that as far as the youth vote and the like. We'll do whatever damage we can in that. But the reality is, and unfortunately, what you're going to run up against is the Republicans can be anti-establishment because they're bullshitting their voters at base. They are liars. They, again, Republican motto is government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. And all of these guys are going to be, against the establishment that they seek to be a part of. Marjorie Taylor Greene can't stand DC so much. She had to get a job that took her there 80% of the year. Right? She didn't run for governor, state senator. She didn't start a business in Georgia. She went to D-fucking-C. It is the establishment. And the problem is they can be against it and their voters buy into it. So whereas
she's another one that has seemingly lost her balls on this whole thing, because apparently Iran wasn't our war. This whole thing, we weren't supposed to get into it. And if Donald Trump got into it, she was going to pot with Donald Trump. And all I've seen so far is her criticizing AOC for criticizing Donald Trump's strike. So again, just goes to show of their going
to vote. Right. She can bitch all she wants, but she's going to vote with them in every single time. And again, this is if you're a Republican, are you worried about, oh my God, this unstable bitch in Georgia is going to make us all look bad, so we need to primary her and get a responsible Republican in? No, they're going to count the seat and move on. And they know that no matter what happens, she'll vote lockstep most of the time, 99% of the time, with whatever Trump wants, including the budget busting bill that they'll all line up behind anyways. There's a bunch of them that will diverge. She won't be one of them. Even if she's like, I can't vote for this if it has this provision in there. She will. Like, they know it. So they don't have to fight for that at all. But on our side of the aisle, what we have to do, I think, is we have a much harder row to hoe. And that is that we're for establishment. We're for the establishment of people's rights being protected. Unions, that's okay. A union is an established organization that sets rules and can negotiate based on a history of working with these folks and consistency. You can be, ask any union boss about the Iran deal. Would you make another deal with that employer if they broke it with you that willy-nilly?
Right.
Of course not. An establishment requires fucking work. And that appeal is there in the youth vote and in anybody else. Like, we're here to do the work that sticks, not just throw a bunch of, executive orders up, or, rubber stamp a bunch of pages out of Project 2025. We want this country to be here long after we're dead. And that's what where our conviction lies. And that requires supporting the establishment of we establish these truths to be self-evident. That's why it's in there, the establishing of these things. And so you're going to be ice skating uphill against that rebellious group. So at some point, you're going to have to convince them that you want something stable and functional so that they can get on with their lives. You can be a weirdo if you want to, but only if people are paying attention to traffic signs and don't kill you on your way to the rave. And that's where Democrats have to do that work.
Right.
That's where we can't just count on an anti-establishment wave to broom out old people every so often, we hope, because ask the 60s, ask the hippies that became yippies that became yuppies how that worked out, because they all voted for Reagan.
Right.
They did.
Well, I appreciate you joining me, my man.
I do
thank
too.
you so much. You're awesome.
I ate up a ton of your show, and it's a conversation worth having. But the reason I feel like we can have this conversation is because I love and trust you, and I know you're a good man, and we can have these conversations, and that's what true diversity is about. It's not just finding people who look different from you that share your exact language. It's about incorporating everybody's stuff together and letting everybody's debate knives sharpen the other. Right. And there's value in that. So I
just want to make sure that before you go, bud, before you go, I just want to make sure that anybody that popped in late, obviously, Hal and I got into some of how the Democrats going forward can try to, do more as far as attracting more voters, whether it be younger voters, whether it be independents. But I do want to make a fine point to let everybody know that, the main focus, the main enemy, the main job of Democrats and people like Hal and myself is to get people like Donald Trump out of office, is to get people on the Democrat side to get to build a base where red senators or red congressmen now are, to get them to be blue, to get those red counties to be purple or blue. That is our focus, and I do understand and fully acknowledge that the main threat, the main enemy, comes from the Republican Party, the GOP, and obviously Donald Trump's actions as far as obviously strikes in Iran,
people aren't hearing
and ICE.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, bud.
People aren't hearing that. If people aren't hearing, aren't voting our way yet, it is up to us to convince them that this is the better way. Some of it will require us shaming the living shit out of the maggots that are in the world and making them an embarrassment to stand next to at the party. That's part of the gig. And that's what you and I do most of the time. And that's an incredibly valuable thing, because when it comes to Donald Trump, the only thing that matters to him, he has no shame, but he can be embarrassed. And we have to embarrass the living hell out of him, because his ego is always on the line, right?
It's so funny how that same thing runs in so many dictators in history. You know what I mean? The one thing they can't stand is being one-upped or shamed, or not shamed, but embarrassed in front of people, or looking any way weak or anything like that. So if we can, in any way, shape, or form, let people know how weak and incompetent and embarrass them in any way possible. I know people might think it's kind of not fruitful, doesn't really have meaning, but I believe it absolutely does. When you can show somebody what an asshole, what a degrading, demeaning rapist, pig, how he's not smart, how weak he is. Right. I think that has very good meaning. Right.
And then if you want to talk about the people that might be siding with them occasionally that you don't like or whatever, if you can create that, you can create a groundswell around that weakness, you'll find fewer people leaning your direction will also side with them, because there will be less in it for them. And again, that's where I'm always 100% whatever responsibility we can take. Okay, how are they not hearing us? How are we not reaching them? Okay, then how do we do it? Because obviously our ideas are better. It's just a matter of language. And if we're blocked in by language on our own side, we're going to lose every single time. And it can't be that way. It doesn't mean you have to violate your own ethics when you're doing it. Exactly. But you do have to find a way. Don't be the loud American in France going, French fries. How do they not understand me? I'm saying it louder. Right. You're awesome. Bless you, brother. Have a great rest of your show.
Thank you so much. I would very much love to come back on your program. I feel like it's been a very long time since we've had a conversation on your channel, and I would love to be able to contribute. I appreciate you. We're a lot closer now. So if you're ever in the area, shoot me a text. I'd love to grab some coffee or some breakfast, whatever the hell.
I insist. I will be in LA. I'll be in LA next week. Twice. So once just for the day, but then for the weekend. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
So maybe we can start doing some more stuff together now that we're a little bit closer. I always appreciate your input, your different way of thinking than I have, and I very much appreciate it. So you're always welcome here. You know that, and have a great day on your day off. I'm sorry to take up so much of your day off, dude. I apologize.
No, it's all right. I still gotta go to the gym, and then I gotta take it's 88
Hold
degrees
on.
here.
Which way is the gym?
Yo, man, like the gym is like, there's like a gym in both directions. I'm working on my Captain America holding the helicopter physique.
Well, I love you, buddy. I appreciate you. Be careful, because I know you got that shoulder issue. I don't want you.
I'm fixing it.
I remember 6 months of your show was like this, I think.
Yeah, I was like walking around going, God damn, like it drove me insane for a period of time. Like it hurt so bad. I would still be doing my show, but in like part of my brain was just like screaming. I've got it. Don't worry, we're back. I'm very careful and smart about it. You're wonderful. I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.
Thank you, dude. Tell Summer I said hello. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. I always appreciate him. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. That's me leaving the studio. I want to stay.
You kick me out. Ladies and gentlemen,
appreciate you, my man. Sorry, I cut him off midstream too. I cut him off mid-sentence. Well, I appreciate you, Hal. Thank you so much. I always love the impromptu conversations with Hal. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, there's a lot to get to, but to be able to discuss it with somebody else that does this for a living and does this full time, and you can get a different perspective is, I think, very, very important. And again, just because we have two different ways of doing things doesn't mean that either way is wrong or either one is right, or that either one can't be used effectively to help the Democrats, win in elections and to turn counties and in states, purple and then blue. I think all of it is very, very important and very poignant, especially in this situation now where we have all the ammunition in the world against Donald Trump, against the Republicans, to lay out a case for their impeachment, for their removal from power, and then to set up a case for putting in Democrats to lead this country. Right? The sane people, the adults in the room. Again, we had this in the last election, though, which scares me, because never in the history of politics did a political party have more ammunition, more opposition research against the candidate, against the fucking vice president, against the cabinet members that could potentially be picked, than we did against Donald Trump, against J.D. Vance, against the people that he put in his cabinets. And somehow we still failed to get that messaging across. We still failed to get that across to people. And again, I think a good circle back to what Hal and I were talking about is, again, how effective Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder are on the younger crowd, right? Which, yes, definitely sways. They definitely change. They don't stay the youth vote, obviously, because they get older. But those youth voters then go into the workforce, then go into different jobs and may become CEOs or may become managers or project managers. And then what we want to do is instill a different way of thinking than Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder or Nick Fuentes, right? Then these people give the younger crowd. I understand it's not something that you want to focus your entire campaign on or your entire attention on or funds. Obviously not, but I do think it's something that we need to focus on, because we are losing badly in that position. We are losing very drastically in that area, and I think any place that you see in our general vicinity that we can improve upon as far as gaining voters, we should try. I think it should be at least attempted. Again, there's plays to go after independents. There's plays to go after, kind of left-leaning Republican types. There's plays to go after, disillusioned Democrats that I'm sorry. I sent you an article in the private chat. I got you. Let me pull that up. I'll pull that up. No, sorry about that. Let me see if I can share that. Present, share screen. Is this it? Silicon Valley execs joined the Army as officers. The United States Reserve has directly commissioned 4 top Silicon Valley executives as lieutenant colonels under a new initiative, Detachment 201, aimed at accelerating tech integration into military operations. While these part-time roles are intended to bring private sector innovation to defense modernization. Can you guys see this? Hold on, you can't. What an asshole I am. At the stage. There we go. How you doing? Is this the one you're talking about, Mel? Let me know. Because Mel says, yep. Okay. Let me just go over this. My apologies. But yeah, just to finish my rant off. I just want to make sure anybody that popped in late didn't miss the point. Obviously, the main focus is Trump's illegal, unconstitutional, against international law, against the UN Charter, against sorry, why can I not think of the? I don't know. Why can't I think of the last? You're not in. Anyway, there's many things. International law, the whole law. I mean, there's just many ways in which this was illegal and unconstitutional. Why can't I think of the Geneva Convention? Sorry, I could not think for. Yes, thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. Pam reads my mind, and I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the chat. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Not only of the conversation, but the situation. And thank you so much to the 13 people that have gifted so far, like Nordez, Sheldon, Slacks. Thank you so much, Rocks. Thank you so much, Moms, Mel, of course, Petrazi, JD again. Thank you so much, Colleen. Oh my God, you are so fantastic. I appreciate you guys. If you want to be, superstars like Colleen or Jerry or Moms and give $1 or $4 or $2, whatever it may be, that's financially viable for you, you can do so just below me. You can also become a channel member for $2.99 a month. Goes just an incredibly long way to help this channel continue to grow, continue to reach new people, continue to get better technology and better setups and get better guests. The more subscribers you have, the more ability you have to get better guests on your show. I'm hoping to get former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn on the show sometime this week. I'm also going to be setting up interviews with a lot of the people, fantastic people that I went to Ukraine with on the humanitarian aid mission, so we can get back to talking about the importance of supporting the people of Ukraine and the things that we saw there. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, not to mention the news of the day, not to mention the seriousness of what's going on between Israel, Iran, and now the United States. There's going to be a lot to cover. There's going to be a lot going on. I'm hoping to put out some more videos on the channel as well in between lives. So hopefully you guys see a lot more of my face, a lot more content coming from here. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, please, if you have not yet. Make sure you like this stream, share the stream out to whoever you possibly can, whether it be by text message, share it on Blue Sky, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitch, please, wherever you possibly can. I would very much appreciate you guys doing so. And to the day oneers, the OGs, you guys know who you are. Thank you, really, honestly, thank you so much. It makes me emotional, but to be at this point where I can finally say that this is my day job and something that I'm going to do only on the the behest and because of the support that you guys show, really gets to me. But thank you. I really do appreciate it, because without you guys, I wouldn't be here. So let's get into this article real quick that Mel sent me. I'm not 100% sure. It said the Army sent a press release that 4 executives are Shyam Sankar from Palantir, Andrew Bosworth at Meta, Kevin Wheel, Chief Production Officer at OpenAI, and Bob McGrew, an advisor at Thinking Machines Lab, and former Chief Research Officer for OpenAI. The 4 men are being commissioned at the high rank of Lieutenant Colonel as part of the program called Detachment 201. The Army's Executive Innovation Corps task and purpose notes the men will get to skip the usual process of taking the direct commission course at Fort Benning, Georgia. They won't need to complete any Army fitness test. What is going on? The Army did not respond to questions emailed Tuesday, but said in a statement published on its website, their swearing in is just the start of a bigger mission to inspire more tech pros to serve without leaving their careers, showing the next generation how to make a difference in uniform. Honestly, this sounds like something that almost sounds like they're getting ready to maybe, I don't know, that would be a stretch, though. That would be a stretch. Silicon Valley has always benefited greatly from the ties of the U.S. I mean, if this actually comes to fruition or whatever this is, I'm not 100% sure, Mel. I do apologize. I'm not researched on this. But if this comes to fruition, as ridiculous as I believe it is to just commission people at such a high rank without going through a fitness test, without going through the, the commissioning course, I feel like... Go for it. Hold on 1 second. Producers here.
No, apparently it happened. it, and I never heard of it, so I looked it up.
All right.
They did it.
Oh, it's already started?
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha. But I mean, if we're going to look at a bright side, Mel just said this is something that seemingly has already happened. But if this is put together, right? No worries, Tiff. Take your time. Tiff. The producers. You like that stuff? Cindy says Politics Girl. Hold on. Politics Girl did a short on this. Let's see if we can pull that up. Maybe she can give us a better idea of what's happening here. Let me see. Politics Girl. Bear with me. I can't believe it's already 11:34. I haven't done any of the clips, any of the videos, but that's okay. I always enjoy talking to Hal. It's always a great conversation. It's been so long, I feel like, since we've been on any show together. Obviously, with the craziness of going to Ukraine and the move out west, just hasn't fit in time-wise. But I'm happy to be back. All right, let me see if I can type in Politics Girl here. Politics Girl. It always seems like the shows I have set up, like properly set up with clips and stuff, never go the way I want them to. But if I don't have it set up at all, somehow it works out. All right, let's go to shorts. Let's see if we can share this tab instead. Let you guys see this. Let's see. Stolen Valor asked a question. Hidden Nightmares, more badass. Elon is out. Lindsey Graham's more good news. When was this? Breaking about the bill. This will affect everybody. I have a feeling it's this one. Stolen Valor, maybe? Let's see.
I genuinely cannot believe I'm saying this and that it is not a top of the page headline story across the country, but the US Army just swore in 4 tech executives as lieutenant colonels. The CTO of Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, the CTO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's company, and OpenAI's chief product officer and former chief research officer, the company belonging to Sam Altman. These 4 men are all now 1 rank away from a general, second in command for field grade officers. There are 16 ranks lower than a lieutenant colonel, and these 4 untrained civilians just leapfrogged over soldiers who have dedicated their entire career and lives to the US military. Apparently, these men are going to work on targeted projects to help guide rapid and scalable tech solutions to complex problems. A sentence that means absolutely nothing, because clearly this is just a way of giving these companies access to top secret information without them having to go through any pesky background checks. And if that doesn't scare you, it really should. Because we already know that Palantir is building a massive centralized database using much of the information they acquired from Doge, Elon Musk's foray into the American government. These billionaire tech bros are compiling lists of our most sensitive information, our tax records, medical data, bank accounts, social security information, immigration status. This administration is allowing them to build the infrastructure for techno-feudalism, authoritarianism in the form of data and surveillance. It is a horrifying and blatant conflict of interest that harms the safety and security of all Americans. There should not be this much overlap between private tech and the US government. Certainly not between private.
All right. So right off the bat, I'd like to say my first thought on this, and this is probably selfish, and clearly my first thought should have been as I said, the allowance of these people to gain this rank without going through the course, without doing any fitness approval tests or anything like that is just obviously wrong and just disgusting in so many levels. But my first thought on this, and again, right hand up, probably a selfish thought, was Ukraine on this, right? So the ability to have the United States partner up with what Ukraine is doing as far as drone technology, AI, and that type of stuff was my first thought. Right now, right hand up, probably a selfish thought because I'm very much a supporter and behind the people in a military in Ukraine. So again, that was probably a selfish first thought. That's my apologies. But yes, Mile, thank you. My apologies. Like I said, as I'm apologizing, I love when the producers and the mods tell me that I'm wrong. As I'm apologizing for my take, but thank you. Appreciate that. Just really drive that home. Please add this to Kyle's $5 to get you on OBS. I know I got to. And Kyle, I still have your book, your OBS book right somewhere right next to me. I don't know where it is at this very moment, but it's here somewhere. So I'll have to get through that. I'll get on it. I promise. But thank you, Peter. I appreciate you. But yes, you guys are absolutely right. Politics Girl is absolutely right. This is disgusting. I don't know if OBS is better. I've heard a lot of people have troubles with OBS. It's a lot more involved as far as the setup for the show. It's a lot more technologically advanced. I'd say you kind of have to be to use OBS, which I guess is no secret that I'm not hugely technologically savvy, which is why Carl has been so generous and so nice to make instructional videos and take his time, energy, and resources and to help me try to get on that. But it's tough, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time to get used to. It takes a lot of skill. I'll be very frank, and that's just something that I don't have at the moment. Maybe possibly in the future I will gain that skill and technological know-how. But at this moment, StreamYard, as long as I have good Wi-Fi and good internet, is more than capable of putting on the show that I believe you guys deserve. So it is, but sort of there are a ton of there are. And Kyle, like I said, you've been fantastic, and I really appreciate you taking the time that you do to help me out. So believe me, a big shout out, and I love to give credit where credit is due as far as people in the chat, like Yvonne, who consistently sends me articles and videos and emails, stuff that I could put on the show. I don't always get the time to get to all of them, and I apologize, but I really do appreciate everybody. Alyosha has been nice enough to send an email, a few good articles in regards to what ICE is doing, a few articles in regards to Republican politicians who have been arrested for sexual battery, sexual assault, sex trafficking, that type of stuff, so we could highlight the hypocrisy of Republicans who continuously talk about Democrats as a pro child trafficking or sex trafficking bullshit. So thank you to all of you guys who contribute. If you give me $1, if you just share the stream, if you're just subscribing, all the free stuff helps immensely. Or whether you're Colleen and are just fantastic and are in the financial position to do a lot more than that. But I love you guys all the same, and I really appreciate you for giving me giving me your trust, your time, which is obviously the most valuable thing in life, in watching and being here with me. So I really do appreciate you guys. But yeah, let me see. Let's just finish out this short here. There's only a few more seconds because she's spot on in this. I will absolutely give that a like. Let's finish off because she's absolutely right.
Attack in the U.S. military. I do not know how asleep at the wheel Congress can possibly be, but they should be shutting this down immediately. And every single one of us should be demanding that they do it. The people who are using the government against you are now taking over military authority. The corruption is calculated and staggering, and I can only hope our veterans and active duty military are paying incredibly close attention. And now that you know, you should be talking about it.
Well, I mean, again, the problem is that's 100% right, 100% correct. I have no notes. She's spot on. But again, we just saw an illegal, unconstitutional, without congressional approval strike on nuclear sites in Iran. So what confidence or what trust do we have in Congress right now to do anything, right? And I hate saying that because I'm not this, all politicians are the same. I'm not this government can't do anything right type of person. I'm not. But at this point in time, Congress seems to have their fucking hands tied behind their back, A, because we don't have the numbers as far as Democrats to do anything, and B, the willingness of Republicans and the balls on Republicans have totally fucking gone by the wayside, so we cannot count on them. So unfortunately, doing this, giving the highest rank you could possibly give away without congressional approval, is doing exactly that, is subverting congressional approval, is subverting Congress and giving these people, as far as, Palantir and these other defense contractors and defense companies, the ability to get information, the ability to get battle plans, the ability to get, basically anything this rank brings in and probably a lot more. The ability to surveil, the ability to, strike targets, the ability to go out and do reconnaissance or research on targets. This is something that should go through congressional approval. This is something that people strive, like she said, their whole lives for in the military. They go to classes, they go to courses, they do different fucking training regiments. They have to go all over the country to get different badges and certifications to make sure that they can complete what they're doing and go on to the next level. Soldiers that have worked and fucking bled and sweat for years, right? That are in fucking military families that for generations have done this same thing. And now you're going to leapfrog these soldiers that have given so much, sacrificed so much for these positions to gain these ranks, to do it the right way, to be qualified. Whether it be for fitness tests, whether it be fucking just taking courses and knowing the shit that you need to know to have this rank, to be in this position. I mean, we're giving the game away here and have been doing so for a long time. This is now being done in broad daylight. As I always say, this is not done this is something that is normally done in back rooms and dark rooms and locked rooms that you don't fucking hear about. And these people just don't give a fuck because they know Congress can't and will not do shit about it. Right. And as fucking loud and as great a voting record as Hakeem Jeffries or fucking, and I have my problems with that as well. But as percentage wise, as much as they vote with us, I think this is now time for a different type of politics. And if Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer aren't capable of doing said politics and getting out there and fighting fire with fire in this situation, we need to persuade them to do so. We need to let them know that their constituents, their people that they represent, are not happy with the way they are going about this politically, and that we think we need a change in the rhetoric, in their positioning, right? And if they can't do that when the time comes, we need to find people that will do that job efficiently and effectively. That is what we need to be doing. Again, our focus is gaining the most power, right? And to be able to do that, you need your commanders, your politicians in this circumstance, to be at their fucking peak, their peak political performance, their peak fitness performance, right? Their peak fucking psychological and mental capabilities. You want the best of the best out there performing at their best in order to get the best results, whether it be for your military, whether it be for your political party. Right. So it fits in either regard, but we cannot have this pussyfooting, sending fucking weak ass letters. Right. That is not going to win us over any voters. That is getting us laughed at. Right. That is doing the opposite of gaining us voters. To get out there and say this man needs to be impeached. This is why he needs to be impeached. I know we don't have the correct numbers to do so now, but in the future we will, and he will be impeached. Right. That is the tone that we need. That is the type of rhetoric that we need for these leaders in the Democratic Party to come out with right now. And whether it be Chuck Schumer or AOC or Hakeem Jeffries or whoever the fuck it needs to be, that is what we need at this moment. And that's my opinion as far as what's going on politically in this country right now. I don't think the old way of really dry, mundane, well-written, fucking comments and speeches that have been gone over by 17 different of your, the people that work for you to take out one line and to fix it and to make it sound great so you can go out there and it's perfect. I don't think that resonates with people as much as it used to. It resonates with journalists and people that have been in the game for a long time. But it doesn't resonate with me or you or some of the newbies that are coming into politics at the moment, right? And I don't think it's wasted at all to spend time to get people that are new to politics over to the Democratic side to let them know that we have the better policies. We have the policies that are going to help you in life. We have the policies that want to give you better health care, that want to give your daughters and your aunts and your wives the ability to choose what happens and decide what happens with their own body, right? We want to stop wars, senseless killing like we just saw. We want to stop corrupt leaders and dictators and genocidal madmen like Benjamin Netanyahu. We want to make sure that our country is safe, but we want to make sure that you have the ability to go to work and make a living, to come home and put food on the table for your 2 or 3 kids without having to work 7 other jobs, right? If we can continuously get this message out there and say, hey, we are the people that are going to help you. Look at what's going on this other side. They have fucking Jeffrey Epstein's best friend as a leader, a rapist, a criminal, a felon, right? somebody that wants to have sex with his own daughter, cheated on his wife, had sex with a porn star 5 months after his fucking daughter, his wife gave birth to his son. The man that tried to overthrow the government, the man that then released the people that tried to overthrow the government from prison. Like, we have to make sure that this is getting out there, because if all they're hearing is Charlie Kirk, all they're hearing is fucking Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder and fucking all these other assholes, then that's what's going to filter in their brain, right? That's all. That's kind of the point that I was making about that. But Politics Girl is absolutely correct. Let's see here, 11:49. Let's see here. Producer Mel, is it okay if I go to 12:30 so I can show just a couple of these clips? I apologize, and if that doesn't work with our schedule, please let me know, and I can end at our regular time. Is that possible? Okay. All right. I see how that goes. All right.
Yes, fine.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. Very own Medal of Valor recipient Eric is very concerned with the direction of this country is going. Not only that, Jen, but I'm sure he's very concerned. And this is just a guess with the target that has now been placed on the backs of the U.S. military in the Middle East, in and around any of the Iranian proxies, right? I mean, the last I heard, there was some 40,000 United States service members in the Middle East. There's several thousand in Iraq, which again is a place that people are watching very carefully right now as far as retaliatory strikes or attacks on U.S. service members or embassies as far as Iranian proxies are concerned. I know a lot of eyes are on Iraq. I mean, pick a country in there, and chances are there's a United States military base somewhere in that country. Not only that, but a military base that was probably used for these strikes. But let me see if I can get into, all right, we covered that one. Let's see here. I feel like we're too far into the stream to play this one. These are the satellite images. This is what I was talking about, right? Let me just show you guys these here. This is what I was talking about as far as satellite images was concerned on the strikes. These are, can I click this to make this bigger? Let's see here. Sorry, let me see. There must be a way where I can double click it or something, right? No. But to me, and I understand that these are 30,000 pound penetrating kind of bunker busting type bombs that are not made to explode on the surface, but to penetrate deep inside the earth and then explode. But I'm not seeing, and maybe there's been more footage and pictures to come out from this strike, but I'm not seeing much. Let me get out of the way here so you guys can see. I'm not seeing much in the way of, I mean, this building here, right? I saw a picture that was then to say, you know, the after. This is the after picture, right? I just have trouble believing that this building would still be intact or in one piece. I mean, if a bunker buster or a 30,000 pound bomb is going to explode underneath the ground, but underneath this building, I would just expect some sort of damage. To me, it just looks like the area has been blackened a little bit. And again, like I said, if you guys have more pictures, or let me see if I can type this in again and see what actually comes out. See if there's any other pictures that have come out, comparisons. So this is Iranian missile strikes on Iraqi base. That's not it. This is it right here. This is the before and after images. Here we go. Here we go. And again, I was just trying to look up these images to see what, the effectiveness of this strike, because again, like I was saying to Hal, in my amateur opinion, this would need to be a multi-step process in order to assess the effectiveness of these strikes, right? Because when you have a place like Fort Howe that is some 300 feet underground, you're not going to be able to tell by satellite imagery alone how effective that strike was, or what you actually took out, or what was in that facility at the time of the strike. You need human intelligence. You need boots on the ground. You need eyes on, which then puts more service members, United States service members or allies, at risk, right? Because I'm sure they're not just going to allow the United States to come survey and inspect the fucking nuclear site they just bombed with 30,000 pound bombs without getting shot at. right? So let's just see if we can pull this up. This is, let's see here. The image below, also from Max Architect, shows several holes which appear to have left by the bombs, right? So where's the before? Is there a before and an after? Okay, images by Max Art Technology show the Natanz. So this is Natanz enrichment facility just days before the attack on the left. So stop moving. Days before the attack on the left, and this is on the right. Right, so clearly, if this is before, how are these buildings already taken out? Were these taken out by Israel prior to this strike? Because it looks like if this is before the attack, look at enrichment facility in the days before Saturday's attack on the left, which is this one. These buildings have clearly already been destroyed. And on the right is the aftermath, right? So clearly several other buildings in this area have been destroyed. Looks like, is that even the same? Doesn't even look like it's the same picture though. Right? Is that even the same area? Let's see here. There's that road. There's that building. Oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. So you can see right here, just doesn't look like much has happened to me, you know? And again, I'm an amateur, political commentator doing this. I did not serve in any capacity in the military, but going from my, what I'm being shown here does not seem to be too different. And I thought that on the Natanz, is this the Natanz? Which one is this? I want to see the main one. I want to see Fordau. But Fordau was the first one, and we don't have a before. This is the Fordau fuel enrichment. Oh, here we go. Here's before and after on the Fordau fuel enrichment. Right? So you can see these holes right here, right? But not much has changed as far as landscape. The building still stands, and again, the building may not have been a target on this. But if you're thinking that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 30,000-pound bombs dropped this close to a building, exploding below would change the terrain, would change the, you can see a crater here, you know what I mean? But it's hard to tell. I mean, if you look in this area here, right, you can see that this area has been flattened. But it's hard to tell if the picture is just taken at a different angle, because obviously the building is not the same. The building is smaller. So it's fucking hard to tell. To me, it just doesn't seem like a ton was done. But that, again, is my, oh my God, you guys weren't even seeing it the whole time? What an asshole. But I was showing it. Share this tab instead. Sorry, this is what I was looking at. My apologies. So I was just going back and forth on the pictures here. And it just doesn't seem to me, again, like much has changed, and I'm not going to go back over it. I apologize that you guys weren't seeing this, but these are just some of the satellite images of the area before and after. Obviously clearly some damage, but I don't know. To me, you would think more would be visible, more would be what it was showing. Oh, it was showing? Oh, all right. My bad. I thought I was showing it. The enrichment is 300 feet below. All Trump did is act like a dictator. Well, Wayne, not to defend the strikes in any way, shape, or form. I think they're illegal. They were unconstitutional without congressional authority and approval. Absolutely. But again, regardless if the stuff is 10,000 feet underground, if you eliminate the entrance and exit to said facility, you really don't then have to destroy the whole thing. But again, I've heard from at least 10 pundits, at least 10 analysts, at least 10 experts on this that say it is extremely likely, if not a guarantee, that Iran had already moved its fucking equipment and the uranium and what they needed in that facility out of that facility. That's why I was kind of bringing up with Hal the ease in which and the lack of space really needed as far as doing what they want to do and what are trying to do, because they can just move it pretty easily As far as what I've been told and read into, like I said, it's not like they have a huge plant and they're trying to bump out nuclear weapons and bombs 10,000 a day or 20,000 a day. This is a lot different process, a lot different what's going on and they also have a huge country, right? So I don't know. It's just, to me, I don't see the effect in this. I think this just set off a lot of shit. I really do think is going to come from this. Again, like as I was talking about with Hal, a lot of countries that are in and around this are always affected by what happens. Again, we see we saw the birth and rise of ISIS after Iraq. We saw what happened in Syria and Lebanon. This is Miss Anonymous said, I seen a video of them moving it. Again, we're all treating this like, a lot of people are treating this like two things are guaranteed. Like we are just a lot smarter than the Iranians, and the Iranians are stupid and just left everything there, knowing that these were going to be targets. And the other thing, everybody seems to be agreed upon, anybody that is for this type of thing, seems to be that Iran was 100% planning some huge nuclear attack with a substantial force of nuclear weapons, which, again, I have not seen the evidence of, right? And again, strikes like this are going to push Iran to make sure that inspectors in which were in some capacity allowed to Brian, don't believe the hype. What's the hype? I don't know. What is the hype? I mean, Karen, that's kind of what it seems to be, honestly. I mean, if Iran had moved as far as what they say and as far as what the analysts are saying, the high potential that Iran had moved everything out of these sites already, knowing that they were targets, then yes, I feel like this was all for naught. I mean, maybe we set them back in time because they had to move this, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't believe this was effective in any way, shape, or form, right? I don't believe this had the effect that Donald Trump thinks it has. I don't think it had the effect that the media thinks it's going to have. I don't think this was a one and done, like we got everything's cool now, everybody's dead now, we can go on with negotiations. I don't think that's what the fuck's going to happen. It's clearly not what's going to happen. So yeah, there's a million different ways that this could go, and I just don't see this as even if you're on the Republican side, even if you agree with this, you cannot tell me what the purpose and effectiveness was without, again, human intelligence, boots on the ground to tell me what has actually been destroyed, what was in those facilities when it was destroyed, and what they managed to get out of there, right? Because in my opinion, United States intelligence had Iran taken all of their fucking stuff out of these sites, I believe, and with the IDF supposedly being the most technologically advanced fighting force on the planet, if they didn't know, I believe they did know that Iran took all their shit out of there, which is exactly why they didn't strike these sites, knowing that it wasn't going to do anything, knowing that it was just some fucking ridiculous show of force, knowing that Netanyahu could come out and congratulate Trump, and Trump could take credit for basically absolutely nothing, putting American soldiers in harm's way to strike something that fucking really does nothing in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, just add that to the list of illegalities in Donald Trump's fucking folder in his notebook, right? How many times did he? What's this? Didn't he remember this, guys? Remember this one? Let's see here. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see. JD Van selling. I sent it to myself. Pentagon for banning action bomb and Trump. No, Netanyahu. Thanks. No, JD Vance. Let's see here. I'll go to this one. Bear with me for a second here, folks. Please like and share and subscribe. You guys have been absolutely fantastic in your support. I really appreciate it. To everybody that sent a super chat, super sticker, become a member, gone to patreon.com/Boston Brian and signed up for $5 at my Patreon, which, again, that and the YouTube memberships and the super chats and the milestones are just the best ways. You can also, I forget what corner it's in, but you can also check out Venmo is the most direct way to get me to get the money to where you want it to go without YouTube taking a cut. There's also a PayPal that you can take a picture of up in the corner that I will put out there. There's a lot of ways for you to help, and I would ask and implore you, if you're in the financial position to do so, to please help this show out and to subscribe at the very least, which is free. You can like, which is free. You can share, which is free. But again, if you're in the financial position to do so, please think about helping either with a membership, Patreon, gifted memberships, that type of thing. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's see if I can do this. Trump. Give me a second. I found this to be very let's see here if I can find this, very hypocritical and on the nose. Oh yeah, here we go.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures.
Play. No, you can play. It's good. I promise you can play. Play it. For crying out loud.
That he's going to get reelected. And as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage.
All right. So now, does anybody see the hypocrisy in what we just watched? Does anybody notice how he basically just called himself a weak, pathetic little man because he was unable to get this done by diplomatic means? He's unable as a prime negotiator, as somebody with the best brain, right? Somebody who's supposedly the master at negotiations per his book. Wasn't able to get people to sit down at the table and negotiate, but instead had it to what he said would make Obama weak and strike Iran. But of course, you know, hypocrisy knows no bounds, and Donald Trump's hypocrisy knows absolutely no bounds whatsoever when it comes to making himself try to look good. It's absolutely crazy the levels in which he can just contradict himself without the media pulling this up, bringing this up. This should be brought up, I believe, at every press conference. Hey, you once said this about Obama when you did this. Now you're doing the exact same thing, if not in a more dangerous situation. What do you say to that? And see what he has to say. But again, of course, you'll never get in or near the president, or Donald Trump, I should say, by doing that. If you ask the tough questions, you're just not going to be able to ask questions any longer, because that's how they do things. They're weak, they're pathetic. You know, they are in fear of being embarrassed. They can never be wrong. They're incompetent and delusional and ignorant in every way, in every facet, and do everything they possibly can to cover up their inability to enact policy and to actually act like leaders. It's just fucking impossible. And they love to just go after they love going after him. But what else was I going to show? I was going to show, let's see, I'm assuming you guys have seen, there was a little bit of this that I could get into. Let's see here if I can get into this. If this will open for me. Take that down, take that down, take that down. All right. I don't know if I can get into this though. Instagram has disconnected the stream. All right, remove. I'm not doing that every time. Pain in my ass. Used to not do it, but now it's back to doing it again, kicking me off every hour. Did you guys see JD Vance's appearance this morning? Pause. He was on, I believe, with Kristen Welker talking about these strikes. Let's see if I can switch account. Boston Brian. All right, let's pause this. Dismiss. Claim off it. No, I don't want to do that. All right, settings, present. There's so many freaking buttons. All right, there we go. We can either do a little bit of this one, or I'll give you guys the option. We can do a little bit of JD Vance this morning with Kristen Welker, I believe, or we could do Steve Bannon's reaction to it, or we could do there's a little bit of new info. Let's do this new info, actually. How about that? Let's do this, and then when we have time, we'll hop into J.D. Vance's lies and his trying to cover up what's going on with the president and his strikes on the nuclear sites in Iran. But let's see if I can pull this up here. Da-dum-bum. Any day now. Any day now. All right, here we go. I'm going to share this tab instead. This is maybe just a little bit more information from this situation. I'm not sure. Maybe you've heard this information. Maybe you haven't. But if you haven't, here we go. Let's just get into this. This is a short one. This is only a couple minutes long. What the hell is that? What just happened?
Truth Social post from President Trump, and I want to read it to you as you see it on your screen right there. It says, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than was witnessed tonight. For more, let's bring in our NBC News Pentagon correspondent, Courtney Cubey. Courtney, this is a very clear statement by the president that he expects no retaliation against the United States by the Iranian regime.
Yeah, candidly, Jose, I thought that would be a message that the president would have really hammered home in his statement less than an hour ago now. So it's interesting that only moments after he finished speaking from the White House, he put out a statement saying this is clearly an indication that there is this ongoing concern that Iran or Iranian proxy groups or networks are going to retaliate against the United States. And there are so many assets that are already there forward in the region. There's U.S. military, there's also diplomatic assets, but the U.S. military and the defense officials who I'm speaking with are particularly concerned about those bases there. The U.S. has moved additional personnel into the region in recent months. Now, a lot of that is defensive in nature, right? They've put additional ground-based interceptors in. There's more ships in the area. There's now two.
More ships means more military personnel that could possibly be attacked because of what Donald Trump and the military carried out just yesterday, right? So adding more troops, adding more ships into this area, although they have unbelievable defensive capabilities, does open up the possibility for more military service personnel to be in harm's way.
Carrier strike groups in the CENTCOM area. Destroyers have moved in closer to Israel in recent days. That is for the defense of Israel, but they can also serve to defend Americans and American assets in the region. In addition to that, the U.S. has brought in additional aircraft and fighter jets in recent days and weeks, and that is also so that they can shoot down incoming projectiles. Remember, the U.S. Air Force was pivotal when in one of these now numerous back and forth between Iran and Israel since October 7th, when the U.S. Air Force was up in the air shooting down multiple projectiles, a lot of drones that were coming from Iran launched towards Israel. Now, I suspect that message from President Trump is as much aimed at big Iran as it is at these proxy groups. There's a lot of concern about some of the smaller bases and where the U.S. has, a small number of troops in Iraq and in Syria. They aren't as heavily fortified, and with so many of those proxy networks that really have freedom of movement and maneuver space around them, that is one of the big concerns. Now, Jose, I can also tell you we're learning a little bit more detail about what the U.S. did in Iran tonight. We know that those three sites were targeted, but we now know that a big part of that targeting effort was actually conducted by the United States Navy. U.S. submarines launched off about 30 Tomahawk missiles known as TLAMs. Those are launched from the submarines. They impacted at least two of those sites at Isfahan and at Natanz, Jose. Again, the president saying that these strikes completely and totally obliterated the sites, but we'll have to wait and see when daylight hits exactly how much damage was done there. Again,
To be able to assess accurately the effectiveness of the strikes, you need to have this be a multi-step, multi-pronged offensive with boots on the ground to inspect with their own eyes, as I've been saying, what the hell has happened. And again, now that we've been informed, right, that a lot of these strikes had actually came from United States submarines, it brings into question the effectiveness of the 30,000-pound bunker busters, or even if even putting that into, not taking that into account and not even questioning the effectiveness, right? What was actually there when they were targeted? right? I mean, it's impossible for them to say this was a complete success or an overwhelming success already, when literally the sun has just come up not that fucking long ago over the area, and there's nobody there with boots on the ground to assess the damage. This is just shoot them off, send off a bunch of missiles, drop a bunch of the biggest bombs we could possibly do, which have never been used in war before, and just tell everybody it was a success. You know what I mean? Knowing that these were probably empty sites. I don't know. Just it looks weak all the way around. All the way the fuck around. It looks weak. And stupid. Again, putting more service members in danger, putting the stability of the region in further question. Again, what happens if a more militaristic, a more nationalistic a regime takes place if we do enact some regime change? You know, what if they take over and they're even more anti-Israel, and they're even more anti-United States now because we struck their sites without an act of war, without going through Congress, right? Isn't this what we were mad at the Japanese for doing at Pearl Harbor when they had a sneak attack, even though they had their representatives talking to the United States representatives at the time, but did not get what they needed from Japan sent over in time to get the declaration of war to Frank Knox? Isn't this what we were, so mad about at Pearl Harbor, because we did not get a declaration of war and we were attacked? Our servicemen and women were attacked at Pearl Harbor without a declaration. Isn't that something that we were fucking incensed about? Isn't that what brought us to our feet as a country and made us realize we need to get involved in what's going on in World War II? We cannot just sit idly by as isolationists anymore, because now we are directly involved. But now all of a sudden it's like, how did we get into the routine that presidents can enact strikes in acts of war without the authority of Congress, without again a declaration of war? And we just sit by and say, oh, another strike by the United States. Oh, it's okay. We have politicians and congressmen and women that are relinquishing their power and their duties to the office of the president, because it is on them. It is their duty and authority to approve such acts, to approve acts of war, to approve when this state, this country goes to war with another country, not for the president of the United States to fucking enact himself. Not for the military to enact themselves. That is not how it fucking works. And the fact that we have gotten to this place where the Congress that is supposed to have the power is now congratulating and patting on the back the president for an illegal strike and an unconstitutional against the Geneva Convention, against international rules of war, international law, the UN Charter. It's fucking against every possible declaration and agreement ever signed on the basis of this situation. And now somehow Benjamin Netanyahu has led the United States by the fucking nose into this conflict with no benefit to the United States in sight. What benefit does this have? We were under no direct threat from Iran, as far as I was told, or as far as I can tell, before these strikes happened, right? Iran was not planning a nuclear attack on Israel, as far as I've heard, before Israel started striking Iran. I did not hear or see any battle plans or hear any of the officials come out and say, we are going to strike with nuclear weapons, Israel and the United States. These are our plans. This is what's going to happen. I have not heard from any intelligence agencies that they have come out with any reports or plans that this was the case. So what is the fucking benefit to the United States to get involved in this again? Did we not learn our lessons in Iraq? Did we not learn our fucking lessons in Afghanistan? Did we not lose enough soldiers? Did we not spend enough money? Did we not ruin enough lives? Did we not fucking interrupt and disrupt enough fucking communities and countries and states and regions and villages in that fucking area? For nothing? For absolutely fucking nothing? To create things like ISIS, to destabilize people in countries like Syria and Lebanon. To see what's happened in those countries, the reverberations and the repercussions of what the United States military was doing in that area and what that led to. Have we not learned our fucking lesson that we cannot tell people how to live? We cannot show people how to live the American way and expect them to do so. We cannot force people to do things by dropping bombs. World War II taught us that. You cannot bomb a fucking civilian population into submission. All it does is strengthen their resolve. All it does is bring them further together because they are now in it together. It does the complete fucking opposite that you think it's doing. Right? All it's doing is nationalizing the people of Iran. All it's doing is making them fucking more extreme and more fucking dedicated to get back at Israel and now the United States for what they have done. We learned our fucking lesson about this. You cannot bomb, no matter how hard you try, no matter what the weaponry is, you cannot bomb a civilian population into submission. It didn't even fucking happen after the first atomic bomb that we dropped. Japan didn't automatically fucking surrender after the first one. They didn't say, holy shit, look at the destruction. You killed fucking 100,000 plus people in one bomb. No, it took another one. And then it took some time. Even then. So you cannot just bomb and invade a country to say, okay, listen, we're going to show you how to live now. This is how you live because we live like this in our country. It's fucking ridiculous to think that you can conduct this. You can conduct some fucking effective regime change to your benefit through acts of war. This can only end badly. This can only go south, right? When we look back upon this and we say, shit, fucking, I'd love to go back to what was seemingly a stable Iranian regime, as much as we have problems with them, as much as you can fucking pick apart, some of the things that they believe should happen, some of the actions that they've taken. You can have absolutely your worries and thoughts about what they're doing with their nuclear program. That is fucking absolutely sufficient and normal for you to have. But to think that we can waltz in there and throw some fucking bombs at them, or if we just remove this fucking regime, that everything's going to be fucking roses and sunshine, I think we have another thing coming. I really do. Because again, when we look back upon this in several years and say, shit, maybe that fucking somewhat stable Iranian regime compared to what we have now wasn't bad. Maybe we would love to go back to what we have now. We don't know what we're going to have in the future. It could be fucking total chaos for a country of 90 million fucking people plus. Right. What if they're all militarized? What if they're all, made to be extreme and fucking anti-Israel and anti-United States because the people that now come into power are pissed about the United States involvement, are pissed about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu has started this fucking war. And now we're going to have to pay for that with the lives of United States soldiers? I don't fucking think so. And if you're a United States service member and you fucking are okay dying and okay risking your life for what this fucking madman is trying to send you in to do, and to risk your life for Benjamin Netanyahu, a genocidal fucking madman and a rapist in Donald Trump, then fucking, I don't know what to tell you. But if there's an opportunity for you to leave, for you to fucking transfer, for you to get the fuck out of your position or your post or whatever the fuck, for you to resign in grace and with respect, do it. Because you're being used as a fucking pawn in Donald Trump's chess game right now. You are the meat that is going into the grinder so that Donald Trump can have his fucking sausage that he can fit down his fat fucking gullet. But it's being ground up by fucking American citizens and United States service members putting themselves in harm's way for seemingly no fucking benefit whatsoever. Only the power and the genocidal fucking beliefs and admirations of Donald Trump and Benjamin fucking Netanyahu. All of this while Vladimir Putin continues to kill on a nightly basis Ukrainian citizens, Ukrainian civilians, the Ukrainian military, bombing cities, bombing fucking buildings, taking out schools and hospitals. While all of this is going on, we still have to think about that. We still have to keep that on the fucking forefront. So if you're in the military and you're willing to fucking actually, and this goes for ICE, it goes for anybody in the fucking police force that is required or tasked to protect ICE officials, transfer the fuck out, resign, retire, whatever the fuck you have to do to maintain your dignity and the respect that you have for your position, for your profession. And do not let yourself be used as a fucking pawn in this fascist authoritarian chess game that Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, Pete Hegseth, fucking Marco Rubio, and the rest of these assholes are now fucking playing with real ass American lives. Stand up, rise up, get the fuck out of your seat and get the fuck into the streets. Because if we don't protest, if we don't continue to have these no kings and hands-off protests, if they don't continue to grow, we're going to continue to see the degradation of our society, the degradation of our fucking geopolitical fucking affairs, and our allies are going to continue to go down the fucking bucket. They're going to continue to go down the fucking drain. And I'm done plunging, so I ain't fucking plunging that bitch. They ain't coming back. Once they're gone, they're gone. We've already lost our standing as far as negotiating with people around the world. We've lost our ability to say that you could trust us in a negotiation. We've lost the ability to sway dictators around the world to give up what nuclear material they have, what militarized system that they have. They now know that they have to go 100% all the fucking way now to get nukes, to get the most militarized, to get the best weapons, the biggest weapons, without the United States or Israel knowing about it. Because if you don't, you are going to be toyed with, you're going to be fucked with, you're going to be screwed over in negotiations, no matter how hard you try to comply, no matter how fucking egregious the lies are about what you're trying to do. It doesn't matter, because if you don't have a nuke, you have absolutely no fucking power on the world stage. No power whatsoever. And if the fucking lessons taught by Kim Jong-un don't teach us exactly where we're pushing these fucking people, then we don't deserve to have the lessons learned, and we deserve to be exactly where the fuck we are right now, because we put ourselves here. Again, I say 1,000,000 times, we had every fucking opportunity in the world to make sure that this situation did not arise, to make sure that Donald Trump wasn't in power, to make sure that he couldn't affect mass fucking deportations or some illegal immigration policies or illegal strikes on a fucking different country of 90 million people. We put ourselves in this position, and now it's fucking up to us to get ourselves out. So get the fuck out of your seat, get out of your sheets, and get into the fucking streets. Look for your nearest protest. Look for the nearest rally. I don't care how big or how small it is. Get your ass out there with your sign, with your voice. Keep your head on a swivel, and make sure that these people know that we fucking are not standing for this. I don't care. We're not waiting for the 2026 midterms to have our voices heard. Now is the fucking time. And if you're not going to step in line, and if you're going to follow what is a fascistic authoritarian regime, we're going to let you fucking know about it. So when Adam Kinzinger talks about how he approves of these strikes, when John Fetterman talks about how he approves of these strikes, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. I'm going to call your fucking ass out, and I'm going to splatter your ass all over that wall to make sure that you know that the people you are supposed to be representing, whether from your state or not, fucking do not agree with what you're doing and did not put you into your fucking position, which you were democratically elected by the people to do so. You're not doing your job. So if you don't change what you're doing, we're going to change the fucking person in that seat. And I don't care how many primaries we need to have. I don't care what it does to your fucking political standing. That's what needs to happen, and that's the right thing to do. All right. Anyways, let me get to thanking you guys for your incredible support. Again, the Venmo up in the corner. There's also, let me see if I can put this up there without screwing everything up. There's also the PayPal that all you really need to do is take a picture of. Where is it? Oh, there it is. All you need to do is take a picture of. It takes you right to my PayPal. I had to change that because PayPal was, when you guys are sending me money, literally holding the money. Like I can't get to it. So I had to change and make another account on that one. There's also some new show times we got to talk about here. All right, so this is the new schedule. New Boston Brian Blunt politics schedule. So we're going to do our Sunday shows as regular. We're going to do a Tuesday show at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We're going to do our normal Wednesday night show as always. And then we're going to do Thursday. Hold on, let me get rid of the banner on the bottom. My apologies. And then we're going to do Thursday, another 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern show. So take a picture of it, memorize it, hit that fucking notification bell, whatever you need to do to be here for these shows. And I'm hoping, like I said, in between these shows, and thank you, Mel, for traffic. Thank you for the work that you do on this show. Thank you for making it palatable to the people. I also have a new exit video that hopefully works that Mel worked hard on. And obviously like the overlays and the names and where it says Hal's name. The backgrounds, everything is put on there and done by Mel. So thank you so much for what you do. But yeah, make sure you guys write that down. Whatever you guys need to do to memorize and remember those show times. I would love to have all nearly 1,000 people that were watching at one point today come join me. We can have discussions again with our great friend Hal Sparks. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to have Harry Dunn, former Capitol Police officer, retired Capitol Police officer, who joined me on my trip to Ukraine. We're going to be talking about our trip, just U.S. politics, how we can help the people of Ukraine. I'll be talking to Ken Casey of the Dropkick Murphys, lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys, who also joined me on this humanitarian aid mission to Ukraine. I want to be talking to the Duke of Hazzard, Walter, Pierre. I want to talk to everybody that was on the trip. So hopefully I can get back in touch with everybody. They have the time and I can schedule everybody. But I mean, how awesome would it be to have retired Capitol Police officer Harry Dunn on Blunt Politics, discussing United States politics, discussing Ukraine. It was just an honor and a pleasure to be able to interact, sit next to, join him on this trip that we had. It really is still sinking in that I was with the people that I was with. So yeah, big shout out to Harry. Thank you so much for what you do, everything. He's always traveling around, giving speeches, talking about the importance of fighting for democracy. Check out his podcast, check out his YouTube channel. Support the Dropkick Murphys who support the blue collar workers in this country, who support the people of Ukraine in ways that other bands and people just absolutely do not step up and do. So just some amazing people and some amazing guests that I'm hoping to have, or definitely going to have on the show in the future. Again, let me throw up this just so you guys know we'll be adding some new shows. So today is obviously the Sunday show. So I'll see you again Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Wednesday night will be our night show for the week. So that might be a little bit more of a relaxed, maybe kind of going through, some of the main stories of the day or the week on that one. And then our Thursday show will be the same time as the Tuesday show. We'll keep that to the day show. And these are in between Hal's shows. If you're a sparkler out there, Mel and I took some time and put some thought into, when Hal goes on, when he's not on, when there's free time, because again, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I don't want you guys to have to split between two shows that you may like watching that just happen to be on at the same time. So again, I want you to know that Mel and I very much took into account other people's show times. The only thing that I do step on is Major Ojetta's show on Wednesday nights. And I'm very sorry about that. That's been there for a long time, but he does a half-hour show. I do a 2-hour show, so you can always catch the half hour of Major Ojetta's live stream and then pop on over after. I would very much implore you to do that type of stuff. So just, support everybody that's in this area. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. We're still fighting to get to 15,000. It's kind of a slow roll, slow going here. It's a slog to get there. But again, I appreciate everybody that's back. Everybody that comes back week after week, the names that I recognize, the people that have been here since day one, keeping the show going. So you guys are fantastic. But let's see here. Boston Brian, why won't you let us raid? What does that mean? At Boston Brian Live, why won't you let us raid? Jesse, I don't know what that means. How am I not allowing you to raid? Let me see if I can go to Twitch. Yeah, don't I do the raids? I'm so confused. Or do you guys do the raids? I thought I did the raids. Hold on. Where is he? Answer that question, because I'm Jesse. Please answer me, because I'm dying to know what you mean by that. Oh, we don't know how? Yeah, you do the raid. Yeah, but you guys have to tell me who to raid. I don't raid myself. Right? That'd be kind of fucking weird. All right, let me go to Twitch. Let me just see here. We'll see if anybody's on now, and we'll see if we can get a raid going. How about that? You guys ask and you shall receive. So let me get rid of this. All right, let's go to Twitch. I'm done. The producer's reminding me that we're eating lunch. Raid. So let me go. I have to go to my... No, not rage. Mel thought I said rage. which I thought I was doing pretty well in my rant. All right, so hold on. I got to sign into Twitch, and then I got to see if there's anybody on right now that we can raid. Pardon me as I go through this. Brian, story of my life. That must be the Irish Ethernet cord. The Ethernet cord that we have is just a little too short. Mel says it's too short, and I said story of my life.
She said. Like, literally, it's a couple inches.
Pam says she doesn't see anybody on. Hold on. Take my sign in. Boston, Brian, live. Crap, I don't know my select. I'm trying. I don't know what that password would be. Sorry, I'm trying to log into Twitch, but I don't technically remember my password. No, it says this username does not exist.
You made multiple accounts. So
Yeah. I'll figure it out for next time. I've done it before, so I know how to do it. It's just because I've set up my. What's happening? What are you laughing at? This is turning into a thing, Lakira says. I'm gonna let you go in 2 seconds. Give me a break. I'm trying. Oh, the van. I don't know if they're on Twitch though. Can I raid on YouTube? I don't know if you can raid on YouTube. Is that a thing? That would be cool though, huh? That would be a cool thing. Save password? No, never, because I didn't sign in. I'm trying to log. It tells me I have messages. So how the hell can it tell me I have messages without me being logged in? Trouble logging in? Yes. All right, screw it. We'll figure it out for next time. We got to go eat some lunch. We'll get it down, Pat. I know there's ways to do it. I have heard people talking about. See, look at this. Locara says no, you can't. Right, and then the very next sentence, the very next comment is yes, you can. So that's just a little example of the inconsistencies that I get from the chat. Where are we going again, Pam? I was trying to raid somebody on Twitch. People are mad that we weren't raiding people after the show, and I also did hear that people were raiding on YouTube, but maybe that's just maybe that's just horse shit. All right, but let's thank everybody. And I'll get you guys out of here so you can enjoy your day. Nordez, first one in there. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted. You are absolutely fantastic. Every single show, first one in there, typically with the 5 gifted. 5 lucky people getting memberships to Blunt Politics because of Nordez and how generous she is. So thank you so much. Sheldon, again, thank you so much for the 1 gifted, my man. Very much appreciated. Again, every show, Sheldon's here to participate and get involved, and I really do appreciate it. Slacks. What's up, Slacks? Hello. Hi, L.A. Brian. Glad you made it safely. Love to you, Mel and Dungaree Dog Logan. Hi, Hal. Love you, too. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. Appreciate you, Slacks, my man. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope you're going to be there for the shows that we added. Love to have everybody back in the chat to keep this family going. You know what I mean? Rocks, thank you so much. Happy Sunday, Briantologist. Love you. Hal, I still can't donate on your channel. Hugs to all. I'm sorry. We'll have to figure that out, Rocks. I appreciate you. I appreciate your services. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, keeping the chat safe, and also your kind contributions to the channel. You are just a fabulous example of what a Boston Brian Blunt politic Brian Tolligan lobster person should be. Moms, thank you. Let's go, Moms. Good to see Brian and Hal this morning. Yes, I appreciate once again Hal taking the time out of his day off to join me and to have a what is normally a lively discussion, but always friendly, respectful. Again, we're fighting for the same things. I 100% believe that and know that. He is a great ally on our team. It's just we have different approaches, which is, again, probably something that benefits our side because you don't want just one approach. You want different approaches that at the end kind of converge onto the same road to get the same thing. So, if we talk about some of the more If we talk about some of the bigger policies that we want, better healthcare, healthcare for all, you know what I mean? Fucking free college, making sure people are educated, making sure women have the right to do what they want with their own body, anti-war. Like at the end of the day, we're all coming to the same things. I just think we're all taking different routes and roads to get to that destination, which I think is fine. And I do believe that conversations like the one Hal and I have benefit for the people listening as well, because not only do you learn things, but you hear different sides of the stories, you get different takes. You realize that everybody doesn't think the same and believe the same things. There are different thoughts, even inside Democrats, progressives, lefties, whatever you want to call it. So, I appreciate you, moms. Thank you so much. Mel, thank you. I love you. Appreciate your services. Thank you so much for what you do for the show. Thank you so much for what you do for me and Logan. And thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, something you absolutely do not have to do, but are just a fantastic person and did. So thank you so much. I love you. I'll be right down. Petrazi, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are fantastic. Please tell the kitty cat I said hello. JD coming in for a couple times, one time for 5 gifted memberships. Fantastic. I mean, just think of the gifted memberships you guys give every month. That just literally keeps this channel going. It's fantastic. It really is. And then right after that, coming in with another $7 bonus, right? Bowie bonus. Thank you. He left me. I don't know where he went. He must have gone and found a better place. He doesn't like when I was hitting the table. He didn't like that too much. But thank you, JD, so much. Thank you, Wes, being here for 14 months. Impeachment, January 2027, if not as soon as possible, brother. Right with you on that one. Hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you for being here for 14 months. I really, really appreciate it. Colleen, just thank you from the bottom of my heart for your fantastic contribution. Just a huge, huge boost and bump and donation to the channel. Support your new chapter with independent media, which is exactly what you're doing, Colleen. So thank you for putting the money where your mouth is. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you. Vote blue no matter what. Absolutely. Let's see here. Moms is back with the 5. Thank you so much, Moms. Happy Sunday, grandkids serve. I'm so nervous. Depending on where they are, depending on what they're being used for, I can absolutely appreciate and understand the concern that people have now for members and family members in the military. So I'm right there with you, moms. If you need anything, please let me know. Thank you so much. Jimbo says, we love you, Brian. Thanks for having Hal on. I really appreciate you. Where is it? Why can't it show up? There it is. I appreciate you, Jimbo. Thank you, Yvonne, for the 5 gifted. Thank you, Ricky, for the 5 gifted. Thank you, Carl, for the $5. I see OBS in your future. You'll get it. Don't give up. I don't think you'll let me, Carl. I don't think you'll let me. Thank you, Josh, for the information. I appreciate that. And the $10 contribution. Thank you for being here every week. I appreciate you, dude. Hope to see you on the new weekday shows. That would be fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Brian, please add this to Carl's 5 to get you on OBS. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bicycle Mike. Hope you're feeling all right, buddy. Hope everything's going okay. If you need anything, please let us know. Let's see here. Peter Mooney again. Help with OBS. Set up anytime. Carl's not available. Thank you, Peter. So many fantastic people willing to help with these things. It's really it's really I'm really grateful to have you people. So thank you, Joy. Thanks to Brian for putting on such a great, informative show. Very appreciative of his immense knowledge. I don't know about immense knowledge, but Joy, thank you so much for your kind words and your appreciation of the time spent on this. But again, I like to reiterate to you guys that I'm not teaching you. I'm not talking down. I'm not on a soapbox. I am on the same level. We are learning this together. We are fighting through this bullshit together. I just happen to be a guy with a camera and a microphone that seemingly speaks and has the same beliefs and thoughts that a lot of the people in the chat have. And, hopefully I represent the blue collar, the nitty gritty, everyday person that's fighting for everything that they have in their lives. I hope that's the person that I represent. So thank you, Joy, so much. I appreciate you. Mountain bike fan, thank you so much. Since you aren't monetized on Twitch yet, I have to donate through YouTube. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Twitch monetization. I feel like I'm well past the the guidelines and the boxes that I need to check for that. That's definitely something I'll have to look into. But Mountain Bike fan, thank you so much for making the effort to jump over from Twitch to YouTube just to give that donation. That really means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jen. You are amazing. Thank you so much for everything you do on our very own Miller. Yeah, Eric is very concerned with the direction this country is going. I very much don't blame him whatsoever. Marsha coming in with the $10 super sticker. Thank you so much, Marsha. Dame Dog, what's up, buddy? Tax-free chip for the Wi-Fi fund. Thank you, Dame Dog. We'll figure something out. I think we just get like a longer Wi-Fi cord or some sort of extender in here. It will be all right. But it's knock on wood, it's been okay. So I appreciate you, Dame Dog. Thank you so much, Nordez again. Thank you, Marsha. You guys are all fantastic. Tony, JD with a profanity bonus, Sally coming in with a $5 gift, and then Yvonne to round it out with her membership milestone, 7 months. So, if you're new to YouTube or if you're new to memberships and you do join for $2.99 a month to become a member of the channel, you get certain perks in the chats. It's a fantastic way, again, to contribute to this channel. But, each month you'll get your free milestone comment. So when you reach 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, in the case of Yvonne, 7 months, and some 14, 15 months, you get the opportunity to leave a comment for free to let everybody know that, you've been around and for people to give you your props for being here as long as you have. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm well over time. I got to let you go. I am really going to hope that this ending works. Just because, but I will let you go. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much to Hal for joining us today. Thank you so much for any of the sparklers that came over to watch the conversation. I appreciate you very much. And until next time, we can all just tell Donald Trump to let's see, what's something we can tell Donald Trump? Oh, I got something for him. I got something.
Go fuck yourself.
You need to do this. We could do that one. Let's see here.
China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
Yep, the brain that just got us into a war with Iran. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for being the greatest lobsters in the sea.
They've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
They really fucked me on that one. They're supposed to play. Really screwed me on that one. All right. Well, you guys are the best lobsters in the sea.
Since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
No, nothing. All right. So that's not going to play. Sorry. Jordan Peterson he chimed in when he wanted to. I pressed the button 40 seconds ago and he just decided to chime in now. Kind of scared me, not gonna lie to you. All right, I'm gonna see you Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's right, I believe. Here, one more time, just to make sure we get it right. Here we go. All right. Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll see you Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day. Get out of your seats. Get off the sheets and into the streets. Make sure you protest and find your nearest protest. Get out there. Support democracy. Fight for this shit. I'm not going to let Donald Trump take that line because the man has never been in a fucking fight in his life. So we ain't going to let him steal that. We need to fight for this country. We need to get out there and make sure that we get damn near or as close to a general strike, which is what we need, as goddamn possible. Shut this shit down. Sometimes some shit needs to burn and some glass needs to break, motherfuckers. So I'll see you next time. Fuck ICE. Abolish ICE. Get out there. Get loud. Stay proud. Keep your head on a swivel. I'm Boston Brian. Thank you for watching Blood Politics. And let's see if this works. Please work. Please work. Please work.
when you ran out the healthy arms. You ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis. I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Where you going? Nowhere. Where you going? Nowhere. Is the town drunk?
This guy's been drunk all day.
Fucking Nazis.
For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
He builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers. We'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
We're a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.